All right. I call this meeting of Conroe Independent School District Board of Trustees to order. Let the record show that a quorum of members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551. The time is 6:01. Item 1A and B is our invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. I'll be leading us today in our invocation, and Trustee Teresa Wagman will lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. So those of you who'd like to join us, please stand. Dear God, we are grateful for this opportunity that we have to meet here today and conduct the business of Conroe Independent School District. We are grateful for watching over us, watching over everybody here in this weather. We ask a blessing to be upon the students and the teachers and all of the staff, bus drivers, everyone who will be involved with going back to school tomorrow, that they may have discernment upon them on roads to travel, that they may know what is best for their families and what is best for the students and for themselves. We pray for their safety. We once again are grateful for the watchful eye that Thou hast had over us over these last couple of days, and we are grateful for all of those that are involved in the decision making to always keep our students safe and protected and do what's right for our district. And we ask for these things and say these things in the name of our Savior Jesus Christ. Amen.
Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the Texas Pledge.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Ms. Wagman. Moving on to item 2A, School Board Recognition Month, Conroe ISD Board of Trustees. Dr. Knoll.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And as we are here tonight as part of our celebration in January is to celebrate your great work as trustees. I do first want to mention, though, I think we should have like 8 kids in the audience every month to say the pledges, and just to have children's voices in here makes it so much better. So thank you to our young ladies. I know we'll hear from here in just a few minutes. We often talk about the great successes of this school district, and they are many, from being ranked as the second most efficient school district in the state of Texas to being a destination place where people continue to move to want to raise their families. That all starts at the very top, and we could not do what we do without a great school board. And we certainly appreciate the guidance that you all provide us and the wisdom that you have, and allowing us to do our job and supporting us in the jobs that we do as staff. And so you see some tokens here of appreciation from throughout the school district, and here tonight to speak on behalf of not only just our principals and campuses, but all employees is Mr. Lee Allen, our principal from David Elementary. So I'll invite Mr. Allen to come forward.
Yay! He's my favorite.
President Hubert, members of the board, and Dr. Knoll, it is my pleasure to stand in front of you as spokesperson for all of Conroe ISD administrators, educators, staff members, and students to personally thank each one of you for all that you do for the Conroe Independent School District. You demonstrate strength and dedication as you focus on excellence for CISD communities, teachers, staff members, and most importantly, our students. You contribute your time, talents toward the advancement of our schools and the students we serve. Each one of you have voluntarily tackled the enormous job of governing our school district. Your actions and decisions affect the present and future lives of our children. Though we're making a special effort this month to show our appreciation, please know that we are thankful for all you do every day. Our schools have demonstrated their appreciation by providing cards, posters, banners, small gifts, drawings that you see here tonight. Please accept these tokens as our expression of thanks for your leadership, support, and the numerous hours you give to make our district the outstanding place it is to truly live, work, and to go to school. I ask all in attendance tonight join me in a round of applause to honor and thank the CISD Board of Trustees for their hard work, dedication, and commitment to creating a bright future for all of our students. Thank you.
That's it's very kind. You know, the board president, I view the agenda before ahead of time, and you know I always see that on there, and it's humbling because I do know this about our board. None of us are up here doing it for recognition. We certainly do it because we love this community and want to give back. And to be recognized for that is very humbling. And so we really appreciate all of the great stuff that's behind us and under the tables and the appreciation and the support. So from me to you, we want to say thank you as well. All right, moving on to item 3, which is citizen participation. Ms. Godfrey, do we have anybody signed up?
We do.
All right. During this portion of the meeting, patrons who have signed up in advance may address the board in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551, and Board Policy BED. For comments regarding an issue on tonight's posted agenda, the board will defer its discussion of this issue until the item is reached on the agenda. For comments related to an issue that is not on the board's posted agenda, the board cannot deliberate or make a decision related to that issue. We ask that speakers address their comments to the board and not to the audience. If any speaker's comments are regarding a complaint, the board directs you to its policies regarding complaints, which can be found on the district's website. Please be aware that if your purpose in addressing the board is to seek a remedy for your complaint, the board cannot discuss or respond to your concern until you have met the requirements of the district's policy. Each speaker will be given 2.5 minutes to present their comments to the board. Screens around the room will display the speaker's time. When the countdown time reaches 0, the next speaker will be called. So, Ms. Godfrey, will you please call our first speaker?
Meredith Boucher.
My name is Lydia Boucher, and I'm a cadet with Troop 108031 from Mitchell Intermediate.
My name is Zoe Fowler, and I am a cadet with Troop 108049 Collins Intermediate.
My name is Claire Boucher, and I am a junior with Troop 108143 from Powell Elementary.
My name is Vivian Chase, and I'm a junior with Troop 108143 from Buckaloo Elementary.
My name is Kinley Rogers, and I'm a junior from Troop 108143 from Buckaloo Elementary.
My name is Isha Kulkarni, and I'm a brownie from Troop 108103 at Garrison Elementary. Some things I like doing as a Girl Scout are camping and canoeing. My troop enjoys camping at Fishing Village in Camp Agnes Arnold. My troop has volunteered at the Food Bank and Veggie Village. At the Food Bank, me and my friends have had a fun time packing food for people in need. At Veggie Village, we had a blast pulling and cleaning carrots. We had a fun time weighing, bagging, and labeling food we had helped pick. On behalf of all Girl Scouts in Conroe ISD, we would like to thank you for making Conroe ISD a place where girls can challenge themselves, be confident in who they are, and make our community and the world a better place through Girl Scouts.
We brought you each some Girl Scout cookies as a sweet little token of our appreciation for all of your support of Girl Scouts. Thank you.
That was very kind. We would all love to comment. We would all love to comment, but we can't. Thank you.
Teresa Neiman.
How sweet.
Yes.
Dear School Board and Dr. Knoll, tonight I congratulate the ORHS Ridge Robotics team on finishing 3rd in the Best UIL Large School Competition, the highest finish of any CISD robotics team. On November 30th, Mr. Timothy Fox and Dr. Michael McLeod took 39 members of the Oak Ridge Robotics team to the state competition in Dallas. The team had to design build, market, and control their robot for the competition. They placed first in technical drawing and third overall. In yet an additional competition, the Similink National Robotic Modeling Competition, Ridge Robotics placed first in the nation. Like many other competitive teams, Ridge Robotics practice constantly, including most Saturdays between August and the end of November. Only imagine what these dedicated students will accomplish once they receive and can work with the equipment ordered in the last bond. Thank you again for letting me celebrate our phenomenal students at Oak Ridge High School.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And congrats.
Christopher Vernon. Christopher Vernon.
You're gonna have to excuse me. I found out about 30 minutes ago that I'm supposed to be here. My wife signed me up for it. So, as of the holidays, what I'm talking about is the smartwatch and cell phone policy that was just swept out. I purchased a watch for my son, which is now said that he cannot wear it because it has the name smartwatch on it. But it is, it's made for schools. It only can be done during hours of outside school hours. It has a block on it, and it can only have 3 phone numbers and emergency contact for 911. The Conroe Independent School District just blocked it because we no longer have anything that has a smartwatch on it. So what I'm asking is that y'all re-look at it and re-advise that as to, trying to think of the word right now, devices that are controlled inside of the school hours. So right now I understand that from I think her name was Lily, the administrator for elementary, and all the principals through, can't even think right now because I'm in front of all you people. But at his elementary, River Plantation Elementary, whatever it was. But the point is that this is a device which allows me to know where he is at all times. And it comes within a 10-foot range. So I'm asking that y'all relook at this and come up with a better solution. That's about it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ryan Brown.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Brown, and I'm a senior at Conroe High School. I'm here today to discuss the student body's opposition to the phone policy and why it should have its effects reversed as soon as possible. In 12 days, I turn 18. Along with voting, you know what else turning 18 makes me eligible for? The draft. While my federal government is trusting me with the responsibility of defending this nation and possibly dying for it, my local government doesn't even believe that I'm responsible enough to have my phone in my pocket while on school grounds. There should be no world where I have the ability to fight a war for this country, but I cannot even listen to music in class. Seeing as I'm speaking on behalf of my school, I went around to some of the lunches last Friday to see how students felt about the policy. Out of all of the students that I talked to, 95% said that they were opposed to the current cell phone policy. More importantly was the passion that I got from these students. Oftentimes, I didn't get a simple no in response, but rather a passionate disagreement preceded by profane language. Considering how passionate many of the students at my school are about this, you'd think they would have gotten a say in the matter, right? Well, the truth is appalling. Only 2 out of the over 60,000 students in the district got a say in this issue that affects them directly. The inability of students to get a say in this matter is a prime example of the dereliction of the school board when it comes to this new policy. I also remind the board that many of the classes taken within this district are college-level classes. Dual credit classes are literally taken through Lone Star College. Personally, I'm in 6 APs and a dual credit, and with all these classes, I'm given the responsibilities of a college student and should be treated as such. Distractions are always going to be present in life, and it's important that we learn how to resist a desire to give in to them. The bottom line here is that people taking college classes should be treated as college students. Moving forward, the effort by the school board to restrict the use of cell phones acts as a punishment to the many for the actions of the few. Just because there are a few people in certain classes that are so distracted by their phone that it goes on to interfere with their ability to learn, does not mean that the punishment should go on to affect the entire district. So we put this policy into place in order to distract students less, which will in turn be a contributor to future academic successes. However, do we realistically believe that a student with no interest in learning before the ban is miraculously going to become a better student? The answer is no. You cannot force a student to learn. The fact of the matter is, students are going to be just as disengaged with phones as they are without them. Instead of trying to make a school district where students are forced to learn, let's make a school district where students want to learn. What this board needs to do is leave it to the teachers to decide whether or not phones should be allowed in their classrooms. If phones don't exist as a problem, then they should be allowed. It's as simple as that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deborah Lieber. Good evening. Thank you for your service as board members for CISD. My name is Deborah Lieber, and I'm a longtime resident of the Woodlands. My children attended CISD schools, and my grandchildren will attend soon. I'm very concerned about tonight's agenda item to consider and approve a resolution to accept volunteer chaplains. I am strongly opposed to allowing chaplains to provide services to students. There are several key differences between chaplains and counselors. Under Senate Bill 763, chaplains, whether employed or appointed to volunteer, are not required to be certified by the State Board for Educator Certification, any religious denomination, or other government agency. In contrast, school counselors in Texas must have a master's degree, 2 years of teaching experience, pass a certification exam, and complete the state school counselor preparation program before they are allowed to provide any services to students. While school counselors and staff in Texas must undergo an extensive background and criminal history check administered by the Texas Department of Safety, chaplains are not required to undergo the same comprehensive background check. School counselors play an important role in students' lives that chaplains cannot fulfill. Counselors are certified and licensed educators who improve student success through the implementation of a comprehensive school counseling program. They help students apply academic achievement strategies, provide counseling, apply interpersonal skills, and plan for college or workforce. Chaplains, unlike counselors, are not given the professional training to care for the mental health of all students. It is frightening to envision students receiving counseling for mental health, suicide prevention, or other behavioral issues from an unqualified individual. Please put our students first and vote against the adoption of a volunteer chaplain program in our school district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Harry Bean.
President Hubert, trustees, Dr. Knoll. One of my favorite songs is Losing My Religion, whether it's by REM or covered by Hootie and the Blowfish. I'm not one who normally loses my religion, but when I heard that the state of Texas wanted school boards to look at the possibility of replacing school counselors with clergy chaplains or to serve in place of or alongside them, I thought about losing my religion. You see, to be a clergy person, we undergo many hours of psychological testing. We had educational requirements put upon us. I had to receive a bachelor's degree majoring in sociology. I completed a 4-year master's program at Southern Methodist University, and out of that I was required to have 3 hours of counseling. Some of us did clinical pastoral education in hospitals, but that wasn't a requirement. I share all of that to say that we are nowhere close to being qualified to take a place of a school counselor. The majority of us are not licensed professional counselors, nor do we have mental health backgrounds. We certainly don't have the 48 hours that were required of school counselors in counseling. Remember, we had 3 that were required, and we have nothing in regard to child development, mental health, nor 2 years of classroom experience. And to let us all know, in the state of Texas, it's rather lenient in regard to being a pastor. You can pretty much complete that process in a day, and it doesn't cost you anything. So it's almost like 1-800 ordain me. So I wish that the state, rather than talking about filling a need with people like myself who are not qualified, I wish they had asked school boards to sit down with school counselors and say, what can we do to help you? What can we do to make your job more efficient? What can we do to help you know that we have your back? I don't want school counselors to think any of us are wanting to push them aside. I want them to know that we do have their back, that we care about them, that we appreciate them, and the mental health of our students and our children are vital, and they are the best ones to fulfill that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amber Fuska.
I was going to say God bless you, but you didn't sneeze.
It's all right.
Our community has entrusted you, the school board, with the responsibility of ensuring the well-being of our children and the success of our children. However, despite numerous pleas and repeated attempts to bring critical issues to your attention, there is a lack of responsiveness, especially concerning the matters within the special education department. The failure to address these matters not only perpetuates a sense of neglect, but also undermines the trust that our community has placed in this board. Trust is the foundation of any successful education system, and when that trust is eroded, the consequences are far-reaching. In the context of the upcoming election year, it's crucial to recognize that the decisions made or not made by this board will undoubtedly influence the perceptions of the voting community. Tonight, I'm not asking for the resolution of a specific complaint, but for a broader commitment to open communications, transparency, and accountability. You have the ability to add anything that is brought up during citizen participation to the agenda for the next board meeting. By doing this, you would demonstrate not only a responsiveness to the concerns of the community, but a dedication to rebuilding the trust that is integral for the success of our education system. While I'm sure you can have the district's attorney help wordsmith the agenda item, might I suggest something as simple as discuss and action citizen participation as needed. Will any of you be bold enough to restore the faith in the board's community and in the well-being of our children? Time for reflection and action is now. Do better, Conroe ISD.
Thank you.
Mark Fuska.
Don't know what that was.
Dr. Knoll, members of the board, I'm hoping that eventually you're going to get tired of me coming to these meetings, because I'm tired of fighting this district when it comes to getting support for my kids. It's a full-time job. When parents like me come to these board meetings and tell you how the child has been mistreated, the litmus test must be, if this was your child, would you be happy with how the situation was handled? If you say yes, then you should immediately resign from this board. If you say no, then you should immediately investigate and put into place policies and procedures to make sure this does not happen again. But this never happens. Why not? This last semester, my son's IEP was not followed. He failed his class, and the school was silent. They did nothing. Please explain to me how a student like my son, who allegedly has all the support around him, fails. He has a special ed teacher, he has para support, he has accommodations, and he's supposed to have an AP that is supposed to make sure everything is running smoothly and working properly. One would assume when my son was failing every test in every class, missing assignments in double digits, someone at the school would have said something. You would be wrong. It was us as parents emailing teachers, calling ARDs, and parent-teacher conferences, all to no avail. Nothing changed, and my son failed. Tell me how a teacher can tell any student, but especially one with special needs, he is not allowed to come before school for extra help, even though every other student can. How can a teacher refuse to allow a student test and quiz makeups, even though every other student can? This is what happened to my son last semester, and my son is the one who suffers the consequence of a failing grade. And honestly, that's not the worst thing that happened to my son this last semester, surprisingly. When will this board start holding employees in this district accountable who break the law and violate district and state ethics codes? When will you start changing the culture in this district? When will all really mean all? Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda Long.
First, I have to thank you for, I know you like to make people feel welcome in this state, and so I came 14 years ago, but you really didn't have to welcome me in this way, because I'm from South Dakota. You didn't have to give me this temperature to feel like I'm back in South Dakota, but thank you for considering that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got stuck in the ice yesterday almost, but anyway, yeah. Another thing you can be thankful for is that I think I told you before that I read, I won't go to bed without reading a portion of God's Word, which is totally truth, which I've said that many times. So because of that, I'm just going to read this one scripture that is, you'll probably be thankful that I have read it, okay? It says, all scriptures is God-breathed and is useful for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training in righteousness. Well, last month when I was here, I said I took my grandson, if you remember that, to get his medical thing at the clinic. So my son said, you can just go to 105 and make a left or a right, whichever one you want to go. He said, if you go to the right, that's where he was before. I said, okay, I didn't say, I just went to the right. And that's where I was. Now, I assumed that was still, I didn't know if it was, I thought we were still in Conroe. We might have been in Montgomery. So whether the schools are different or not, I don't know. So I told you what I had seen when he was signing this thing. And I said, I was looking at it, and he signed, it said gender, and he went, male, and then I kept looking at it while he was doing it. I didn't say anything. And then I saw words, cis, and all that kind of those words, which I'm not familiar with, and I was like shocked. Well, so I went to the clinic myself again. I got a copy of the papers, and I stand corrected. It did not say those words. I have no idea how I saw this. So if you guys want to take a collection and help me get some help with this thing, but that would be greatly appreciated. But what this thing is called is, the paper is called School Physical Demographic Sheet. Is that in Conroe? I'm not sure if you have that here or not. You don't have that here? Okay, then, okay. Here's what it said on the sheet. So I took a picture of this. I got the paper, and it gave this. It said, male, female, transgender, female to male, transgender, male to female, gender queer, patient declines, or additional gender category not listed. So I don't know if you have it here or not. I assumed it was. You don't. Well, thank you. And if it comes to before you, please don't get it, okay? And you can just thank the Lord that I'm stand corrected in that thing, okay? Guys, these
No
things
problem.
mean the same, but thank you.
Thank you.
For clearing it up. Russell Purely?
Good evening. Thank you for your time this evening.
Yes, sir.
I'm a parent of a boy and a girl here in Conroe ISD. We are very happy with the education that they're receiving. We also have taught them to respect their teachers and the staff, and they view them as authority figures who are often quoted when they come home from school. So when it comes to that, we also value the religious upbringing of our children. And it's concerning that a volunteer chaplain might be introduced into the school system who does not reflect our religious values. We don't know who that person may be, what denomination or even religion they may be. And so the idea that they would be providing counseling and programming that we don't have the option of getting our children out of is concerning. So the other thing I would just point out is it does seem like if you are starting to select volunteers based off of potentially their religion or having kids get involved in religion in the public school, that someone at some point may file a lawsuit, which is just the use of taxpayer funds that we don't need. So I appreciate y'all's time. I hope that you will vote nay on that resolution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carrie Freemeyer?
All right, long awaited. Last month I was kind of sick, so I didn't come. I didn't want to spread my lovely germs. President Hubert, members of the board, Dr. Null, long awaited. I want to say thank you so much for all these difficult decisions that you guys make and setting your personal agendas aside and making sure that you are looking at all of our students and all of our staff, and no matter who they are. We have a very, very diverse culture here, environment here, and we want to make sure that we continue the safety of these employees and students that are here. And so these choices that you guys are making, we really appreciate your support and everything that you do. I also want to make sure that you mark down on your calendar. Our Salute to Education ceremony is on Tuesday, May 7th. So put that down because you are definitely invited to recognize these honorees that are going to be coming from these campuses. And again, thank you so much for all you do. Thank you for our stipends. Thank you for the bonus salary increase that we had. Thank you. Greatly appreciated. And I know it's been difficult for you guys, and this is a lot of commitment. And we just want you to remember, all means all. And again, thank you for setting aside your personal agendas and making sure that we are looking at all the diversity that we have in this environment. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it. All right, very good. Thank you to all those who participated. Moving on to item 4, which is our consent agenda. I have not heard from anybody to pull anything, so I would entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. President, as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor show by the uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? Very good, motion carries. Moving on to item 5A, excuse me, consider and adopt the 2024, 2025, and 2025, 2026 school calendars. Dr. Knoll?
All right, we're going to ask Dr. Upshaw to come forward, and I'll just say, as you all know, because this is, I think, our third or fourth time to talk about this in a board meeting, this is certainly quite the process, and Dr. Upshaw, along with Dr. Medford, have done a great job working with our district level committee, and the work that Ms. Blakelock has done as well with the surveys has been really powerful. So tonight, we certainly need to set next year's calendar, but the district level committee, as Dr. Upshaw will talk about, felt comfortable enough with this year's calendar and the fact that the calendars are so close next year that they wanted to present 2 years worth of calendars for your consideration. So you'll see that as an option as well for you.
Good evening, President Hubert, members of the board, and Dr. Knoll. It is quite the trifecta when you have the three of us working on this, so it is a great team. Just a reminder of our timeline. Today was our intent to be able to come to you after the multiple months of recommending the calendar presented to you by the district level team. So as of last time, we came in December and we had 2 calendar drafts. We had calendar draft A and calendar draft B. Just a couple of reminders of what these drafts included. Calendar draft A was a calendar that had multiple 4-day weekends, 4 or 3-day weekends throughout the year. And one new process was the teacher exchange days and the additional work day in August. Draft B had the same in exchange days and 2 work days. The difference was that this calendar had the week off, the fall break in October. So after your feedback and lots of discussion for us to consider, we went ahead and issued out a survey to our school district. And this survey, before the holiday, had already 5,300 responses. And we really thought when we came back, that draft B was actually leading. We did 1 social media post and we had another 10,400 responses. So one of the reasons why I think the district level has felt so strongly possibly moving forward, because the amount of survey responses that we have received in these calendars are none like any other we have in years past. So after deliberation, some of the feedbacks, you had asked us if we could look at the data with the selected groups, right? The all group, the parent only group, parents who are employees and employees only. So you can see here that draft A was the choice. So moving forward with that, we went to the district level, and here is draft A. We went ahead and had some discussions with district level about draft A for them to consider. And so I'm going to point these out. I'm trying not to make you dizzy, but there was 3 main changes. Change 1 was the August 5th. Currently in draft A, August 5th is a work day. You can see here. We moved from August 5th being that exchange day to being a work day. So normally you did those hours over the summer, and that was something that was in exchange. We decided to put that in the work day, and you'll see why in a second. Because the next day is that we moved the November 4th to be an exchange day. So you'll notice right here on November 4th was a staff development day, but we went ahead and made the change to make it to an exchange day. So that means that teachers could have, or excuse me, the community could have yet another 3-day weekend, or 3-day weekend. And then the last one was the change in the spring break. The calendar we had presented before had spring break. This week we received a lot of feedback to consider neighboring school districts, because some of our employees have spouses or children in other neighboring districts. So we could please look at what neighboring districts had adopted and then consider that. So you can see here that that has changed. So with that moving forward, the district level decided we like the changes to draft A, and they moved forward with this draft for 2024-2025. And they were also in agreement with the minutes. Trustee Chase last time asked us to look at early release days, and that was some feedback she had received from the community. So you can see here, these are the highlights of the calendar, and the district level has recommended 2 additional early release days, which are the traditional early release days we normally have, the day right before the holiday that we just had, and then the last day of school. So that is the feedback on draft, which is now the draft for 2024-2025. We don't have to have letters or numbers anymore. It makes it easier.
Okay.
And then looking at that calendar, they looked at next year's calendar, and it has a very similar footprint. Sometimes it doesn't, but they went ahead and recommended the 2025-2026 calendar. And then you'll note here, with the additional district level recommendation of December 19th to be the early release day and May 22nd to be early release. So those are here for your feedback and approval discussion.
And if I could make one point on just spring break, could you go back?
Yes.
If you would, let's go back. Yeah, let's leave it here so that they can see this while we're talking. One of the big moves was spring break. When we initially put our calendar out, the folks around us didn't have theirs out yet. It's really not about other districts, what they're doing. It's really about the entities that we interact with. And Lone Star College is the #1 entity that we interact with. We have dual credit classes and kids going to their campuses. So once they rolled theirs out, they rolled out with this earlier week as well. So that was really the big push to move. And especially for our graduates, that's a place where we send the most kids. And that was, really spurred that move as well.
Yes, ma'am.
I turned off. Hi.
Hello. Good evening.
Thank you for this. Really, really solid work. Just a quick question. You mentioned the 3 or 4 changes, I think on the prior slide, that you guys made from what was presented in the survey. So this is changes that were made after the survey was done?
Yes, ma'am. Alongside with the district level committee.
Okay.
Their recommendations discussed there. Yes.
Okay. And then throwing in 25 to 26, why do we, you just think that they're close to the year prior? Is that why we're doing 25, 26?
Yes, ma'am. They're very similar in footprint. So the decision was made that if they're similar, sometimes the holiday is off during the holiday we just had, that week's off. They just went ahead and said, at the earlier process when we had talked to them, had said, well, can we recommend having 2 coming forward? And there are other districts that do so just for planning's sake. But again, like Dr. Knoll said, we don't necessarily need to do what other districts are doing. It's just something that they would offer because it looked so much the same.
Can I see it 23, 24, or I'm sorry, yeah, this is what I want to see. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Questions?
I actually like presenting 2 years in a row. That gives parents plenty of time to plan those Disney vacations or trips with family. I think it's a great idea to do it 2 years in a row. Could you please remind me what do the teacher exchange days actually comprise? Like, it's not so much that they get to exchange and not attend, is it? Or is it? Just refresh me,
So
please.
we're still we've never done those before, so we're still in the process of moving forward with what the rules of that will be. But I do want to remind the board that in order to provide the exchange days, they are professional learning hours.
Correct.
Because we have a waiver in place for staff development, and we're able to provide exchange days for professional learning, and for us to exchange 2,100 minutes to our required number of minutes. So there will be a process that we do where for professional learning hours, they're allowed to exchange the days of coming that day.
Okay, perfect.
So just fundamentally, what might that look like, just as a scenario? Let's say there's going to be a summer training. It's going to happen in July. We have all types of foundations trainings or curriculum trainings that teachers come up and do throughout the summer. So now what they would do is they're basically banking those hours. So once they've banked the set number of hours, that would count for a day. So when you get to this calendar day on October 11th, if they had banked enough hours of staff development in their off-duty time, they would not have to attend work that day. They will not show up.
Wonderful.
And then on the November 4th day, that is the day that would be designated as the exchange day for safe schools, I know we changed the name, I still call it safe schools. That's all the summer training that we do that typically you're off on that August 5th day for. We're going to use August 5th as a work day because we've got that feedback about we want more work days, and that's great. So we can do that and basically bank those hours so that on November 4th, they will not attend work. So they would be off that day. So if they accumulate hours outside of their normal contracted time, then they won't actually physically show up on those exchange days.
Wonderful. Okay. My biggest concern was May 28th. There's nothing worse than having to come back to work right after a big holiday weekend. And so I was hoping that was going to be an option for them to be able to take that day.
One thing that we're very blessed with in our district is we offer almost 6,000 professional learning hours at all sorts of days, and not hours, excuse me, opportunities,
Right,
whether it's
right.
in the summer, it's after school. So they're able, and we offer them virtually, in person, so they're able to attend what's the best for them in their
Fantastic.
craft or their grade level, to be able to exempt those days.
Wonderful. Thank you for all of this hard work. This was a mountain, but you all climbed it. So thank you.
Dr. Upshaw, are you seeking a motion there?
Yes, sir.
I still have a question. If they take professional hours from somewhere else, other than in Conroe ISD, as long as they have certification that they took those hours, do those work towards their deal, or is it only if it's a Conroe sanctioned tutorial or training?
So we're still in the process of solidifying those rules or let's say guidelines. Because it is in exchange for the staff development waiver, it does have to be a certain kind of professional learning, right? So let's say, for example, outside, if I'm working on my master's, that would not count because it has to be school sanctioned or Conroe Independent School training. However, let's think about our advanced placement teachers in the high school. They attend training in the summer at Bryce University. Well, that's an outside entity. They would then give us a certificate. We would then say exchange date eligible. So yes, but we have to work through all of those parameters because if you can imagine 6,500 teachers, all sorts of certifications. So we do really have to come up with what would be those guidelines.
Well, that's good to hear because I know that I did take the AP training at Rice and I was AP certified through there. And so that was a week of training.
Yes, ma'am.
And that was, on my own time and everything. So I would want our teachers to have credit for that, as well as also took Gifted and Talented out at the convention center, which, I was in Spring ISD when I did that, so it was not as big as Conroe, but it was extra training that I wouldn't have necessarily had experience with. So I'm glad that you're considering, I encourage you to consider those hours because sometimes there's something you can get elsewhere and then you can bring it back and share with even with our teaching and learning department.
Right,
So-
absolutely. And all those trainings you're mentioning, they're required in order to stay certified and being able to teach those kids so they align perfectly.
And they would just need to be approved by their principal,
Yes.
and that'd be be a process for that.
My last concern is I'm not opposed to the 2 years. It's just that I don't feel like we marketed it that way, that we rolled it out that way to our constituents and the people and the parents. Regardless of if they really liked what, by the votes. Honestly, if you go back to can you show the two, A and B, even though it's not the exact same?
The initial ones with all the little arrows?
Yes, well, the stats on the survey. Okay, look.
There we go.
There's not a dramatic difference in those numbers on any one of those areas, on draft A or B. I just hesitate to, I think we had great participation, but I hesitate to adopt a second year calendar when we haven't even, when it's that close. What if we run this through and they go, okay, we did this last year, let's try something different next year? And that's my only concern on that, of trying to do 25, 26 at the same time.
We understand, absolutely.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve, adopt.
I have a question.
Yeah, you can, we're
That's
gonna do it
fine.
after discussion.
Yeah.
Adopt calendars for calendar year 2024 through 25, and calendar year 25 through calendar year 26.
Second.
You got a motion and a second, discussion now.
Thank you.
Help you out there.
Yeah, we have a discussion now. We have a motion and a second, so you can ask your questions.
Okay. Well, so did Ms. Chase, so I'll let you
Go ahead.
You were going to go. Okay. So thank you, number one, for the extra work days. I think that a lot of teachers are going to appreciate that. And I think exchange days, if I'm understanding them correctly, they're going to appreciate that as well. I do want to say that I agree with Ms. Odenweller, that with the 24-25 calendar, let's give it a go. And then I would think that maybe that's something that could be done on the committee level to consider keeping things as closely as the previous year, but still keeping that annual approval, because I think it's important to note that we will have a new board next year. So if we approve that calendar this year, they don't get the chance to be involved in the calendar approval. So, and they're going to answer for that. So I don't really want to make decisions for them when they don't have a chance to be a part of that decision. So that's my only comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you, Dr. Upshaw. So just remind me, how many versions of a calendar did you have out there?
38, 39? 39.
39?
Yep.
How many surveys did you do?
We did 3.
Three surveys?
And in comparison to this is my 4th year to work with this.
Yeah.
The numbers of responses are at least double.
Yeah. So tens of thousands of responses that y'all
Yes,
went
ma'am.
through over a period of, I don't remember the first timeline, but
3 months.
months. Yeah. Yeah. So really appreciate all your work and the committee's work to get us to this point. And I am just delighted that you have 2 years worth of calendars to put in front of us. I think families like the ability to know what's coming up and to plan accordingly. So I do really appreciate that. And good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
I personally think you guys put about 5 years worth of work in trying to develop one calendar. So I'm a firm believer, a huge fan of trying to, map this thing out for the next 2 years. So I appreciate you bringing that forth.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. I too have heard from some parents as well that they, at first they said, hey, why 2 years? And then after it kind of got out, I got a lot of responses of people saying, hey, I really like that idea of doing 2 years. Get it, as Ms. Wagman was saying, it just gives some time to, just for planning and not having to come back every single year. And like you said, the 2 calendars are fairly close. And, I did see your stats, and they were very close, and I know there's probably different ways to interpret that. It could be interpreted that they're okay either way, so because they're so close. So that was just my thought.
Just one quick question. If we do adopt the 2 years, what if, say, Lone Star comes back and they've changed their spring break? Like, we don't know when Lone Star is going to have their spring break in the following year, correct? So is it amendable at that point, or how can we?
I think that's a fair point, and is something that perhaps on the 25-26 calendar we could put an asterisk at spring break that says, will be confirmed. This date will be confirmed in January of 2025, or, once we've seen the other entities. I think maybe that's something that we could do. And now, historically, that's been the week. It's been our week. It's been their week as well. I would assume, but, assumptions are dangerous. But we could put an asterisk just for the sake of letting everybody know that that is a spot that could move.
But then doesn't that kind of defeat our purpose of trying to give them a heads up for planning for a trip or that's that's one of our long weeks. We have November, then the winter.
Yes, ma'am.
And then that week. So it kind of it gives them a heads up maybe on the other two, but not really on.
Well, and start and stop as well. I mean, those are big ones.
They would
hit up on
parents
everything other than that week.
By approving this one, and fair enough, because it would put them sort of, you'd have to caution your spring break trip, but it would go ahead and let them know that they have a 4-day weekend in October that they could plan for, and a 4-day weekend in February if they wanted to travel. So those days they could know, but
And start and stop dates.
and
too.
start and stop.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And Christmas break, when that would be. But
Yeah.
once again, what we need to approve tonight is 24, 25. If we want to do both, understandable. Certainly the committee felt it was worthy to bring forward, but we definitely just need to get 24, 25.
I'm not opposed to that, Dr. Knoll. I do have, is there any way that maybe we could, they've only had 72 hours. I mean, since this went public. We didn't announce this ahead of time. So they got this public Friday afternoon that we were trying to approve 25, 26. Am I correct on that to the public? I mean, we got our copy, but when did this possibility of 25, 26 go public?
That'd be this afternoon.
Well, I just want a
Well,
confirmation.
I think it was discussed a couple of times early in our presentations.
It was.
Yeah,
It was.
I will say, Dr. Knoll, and that was my big hangup when I did see it in the agenda, is that this was never presented to us in all the conversations we've had. It was never mentioned that we might do a 2-year. So that was it was a quick switch, I think. So if we could just maybe wait another month, get some input on this.
That's what I was heading to. Could we approve 24, 25, Dr. Knoll and Dr. Upshaw? And then let the public have this and say get feedback on this from them for approving it, so they'd have more time to plan trips, et cetera. If we postpone the 25, 26 just a month or something to give people a heads up on it. I just don't like that we're just throwing it out to them now and they're not even aware that what they voted for was a 2-year plan.
So what we have right now is we have a motion to adopt both the 24, 25, 25, 26 calendar. That's the motion,
Okay.
and that's what has been seconded. So if that motion wants to be withdrawn, we can certainly go back into that. But what we have right now is a motion, and so that's what we'll be voting on, is that motion, unless it's amended. I'm not hearing any amendments.
Can it not be amended to?
100% it can be amended if someone wants to make a motion to amend the motion.
So I make a motion that we amend the motion to only include the approval of the 24-25 calendar.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
He has to accept it.
Yeah, would you accept that amendment, Mr. Williams?
No.
No. Okay.
Can I just ask a question? Is there a particular reason that the committee decided that they wanted, because does the committee change from year to year?
They have, I think it's 3-year terms. I don't want to speak out of turn. Is it about 3-year terms? 4-year terms? 4-year terms. So it just depends whether they roll on or roll off. And I wanted to be respectful, not interrupt anybody while we were having discussion amongst you. But we did early on discuss with the district level the process of possibly adopting 2, and that was in the initial, because we've been here I've been here so many times to have this discussion with you. In the initial process, for me just describing the process of the calendar, I did mention that we would entertain that at the district level. So I do apologize if that wasn't clearly communicated or misunderstood.
It was clear.
And in reference to the comment of whether we can hold back or do a month, or that really, I'm just here to to give you the feedback,
Sure,
and as
yeah.
a board,
Yeah.
you make that decision.
And the reason I ask is because, like I mentioned, the board changes just like on a rotating level. So if we approved a year out, it just would make more sense to do it maybe next year. And that's something the committee could keep in mind to take lessons learned into account. And, I mean, you could still roll out this exact same calendar, but at a better time.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, how many hours did y'all spend putting this together? Like, the time is finite, energy is finite. So I am overjoyed by the prospect of being able to knock out 2 years at once. And as a parent of kids in this district, I'm also overjoyed to already know and expect what is going to come in 2 years. So, thank you.
Any other thoughts?
I do have one more. So
Sure.
it is, the suggestion to put an asterisk and say it's subject to change defeats the purpose of voting on this 25-26 calendar tonight.
We didn't
That's not on there.
agree to that.
Yeah, that's not on there
I didn't agree
anyway.
to that. That was Dr. Knoll's recommendation.
It was a recommendation is
It
what I'm
wasn't
saying.
It's not
presented
the
in the
motion.
motion.
It's not part of the emotion. It's not emotion, excuse me. It's not part of the motion.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I think it's great to have the conversation, and I appreciate what you're saying, you know, hearing from people from the board, certainly hearing from those that have children in the district, you know, it's good. I personally, I won't have kids in the district next year, and nor will I have a wife in working for the district, so I'm listening to those that are talking to me that actually have kids in the district, and then also listening to the three of you speak about your thoughts as well, so. Okay. With that being said, I will call the vote. All those in favor?
This is on Deirdre's.
Yes,
Yeah, would you
ma'am.
just
So-
restate the motion?
Sure,
just to
I'm
make
happy
sure
to,
this-
happy to
Motion to
restate.
accept as presented, to adopt 2024 and 2025 school calendar year, as well as 2025 and 2026 school calendar year, calendars as presented.
That is our motion. We have had a second from Ms. Wagman. All those in favor of the motion show by the uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? And abstentions? Okay. Motion carries 4-3.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr.
All right, moving on to item B, consider and approve attendance zone for Bartlett Elementary and additional elementary campuses with the Caney Creek and Conroe High feeder zones.
All right. The only thing more exciting than calendar conversation
Yeah.
is rezoning conversation. So we have a pro. Mr. McCord?
So, President Hubert, members of the board, Dr. Knoll, I'm here tonight on behalf of the 45-member committee charged with the challenge of rezoning Bartlett Elementary and various elementaries across the Caney Creek and Conroe feeder systems. So our committee has met over 6 months, has created 27 different scenarios to address the needs of the initial boundary for Bartlett Elementary and to address overcrowding at a large number of schools in both Caney Creek and also in Conroe High at the elementary level. In a 131-year history of our district is really one of the most challenging scenarios and endeavors that we've undertook. But we feel good about it, and I'm happy to be here tonight on behalf of the committee. I cannot say enough thank yous to the committee for coming over 6 months. There was a lot of math involved, and I do want to say a special thanks to our core group that's worked on me for the last year with this, Cindy Smith and Regina Woody Crane at our district office to help give us the data tonight. So just going forward as far as the school, it will be a 950-seat, two-story elementary school. It will open in just a few months in August of '24. It'll open on Cielo Drive. This is just northeast of the fairgrounds in Conroe, and it will be pre-K through 4. This is the esteemed committee of which I mentioned. They just kept coming. They kept coming up with ideas and suggestions and kept tweaking and tweaking. And I owe a great debt of gratitude, as does the district, to these fine people represented on this slide tonight. So if you're watching over the internet tonight, thank you everyone who is a part of that. We were able to present to the community, the parents, in person multiple times and over the internet multiple times. Those were recorded on YouTube, and they received many views on the virtual iterations, but they were there throughout the course of the process, as was an opportunity to go to our website for the last 6 months to click on that tile that says ABC, where anyone who was interested could get frequently asked questions. They could look at scenarios that were in play, out of play. They could submit scenarios and just get any kind of questions they might have answered on the attendance boundary process. So what were we trying to accomplish? So we talked about this a couple of times throughout the fall, is to develop the initial attendance boundary to populate Bartlett Elementary. just like every school in the district had to have a boundary when it was created, while still preserving some campus capacity for future growth at the facility. It is the second half of that sentence that was the great challenge. Between Sweetwater Ridge, Cielo, and Pine Acre Trails, and along with a lot different areas in Caney Creek, there is just a tremendous number of families that want to be a part of what we have, and they're coming to all over our district. But there are a lot of them that are coming to the north of the Conroe feeder and within the Caney Creek feeder, and then provide overcrowding relief to Caney Creek and Conroe feeder elementary campuses that are over capacity as I stand here before you today. So why was it challenging? I won't read these individually, but I will tell you school zones are a big deal, and schools are a big deal, which is why we're here tonight. So we take the process seriously, and we really put our heart and soul into doing the best we can for everybody who's involved. When I was before, a couple of times, I talked about geographical proximity. We want to put together attendance zones where kids go to school close to where they eat, sleep, live, and play. We want to have maps that make sense when you look at them. But I will draw your attention to that top gray box tile where it says capacity of campuses and ability to potentially impact the campuses to physically accommodate future portable classrooms if needed. Because this is the last elementary school we have coming in the near future for the Caney Creek area in the north and the Conroe High area in the north. We put a lot into this because it's really, really important. And in doing so, the committee, one thing we had to look at was not the number of portables that are currently at a campus, but how many total additional portable classrooms could that facility and the grounds of the facility hold based on growth that's coming. So we could come to you tonight with scenario 9.1.2, but there are a lot of things that we've taken into place. So just for emphasis, this is not portables that are there now. These are ones that could be added. For example, Anderson, if you look at Anderson, we had to make considerations between Anderson, Patterson, and Bartlett. But how much they can handle once this is done is important. Our goal is to come to you no more often than we have to ask to do rezoning. So we want to get it right the first time. So as far as zoning goals, I won't read all these, but I'm here tonight because of the gray goal at the very bottom. We need to present to you tonight an attendance boundary, scenario 9.1.2, that with your approval, we can begin moving forward, and I will hand the baton to Dr. Winkler and her Crackerjack team to begin to do what they need to do to make it happen. So that is why I am here before you tonight. Besides the fact that if you look at this stream, which is also why I'm here, and all these schools you look are approaching or over capacity in the Caney Creek and Conroe High feeder. They all have their own idiosyncrasies. The one that jumps off the page is Creighton, obviously, at 152% of capacity. It has 16 portables. But for example, they all have idiosyncrasies of them that are of concern. For example, Runyon is a smaller school. Patterson has tremendous growth coming. Anderson has growth coming and very limited additional space to put portables if needed. So there's a lot of factors at play. We took all those into account. This gives you a look right now. It's good to take a snapshot in your mind of what do we look like right now. Now, this does not show the entire Conroe feeder on the left or west. We do not show Giesinger. We do not show Gordon Reed. We do not show Stewart. We show ones that were involved. But if you look here on the right, you see Caney Creek. On the left, you see Conroe. Bartlett Elementary, I would call that maybe yellowish gold at the top middle. You see that number 66. That is where Bartlett Elementary is located on Cielo Drive. So really, if you look at it, that resides right now within the Patterson zone, but it borders Anderson on the left, Austin on the right, and it's close to Runyon. It's close to a lot of things. It's in a really good location because that's where a lot of people are coming, and they're coming fast. So having said all that, you can see 66 in that goldish, dark cream color at the top. That would be the potential new attendance boundary for Bartlett Elementary. All the areas you see that are in a darker color would transition from one school to another school. So you can see it would impact much of the north of the Caney Creek feeder and portions of the Conroe feeder. The resultant impact of what this would do is tremendous as far as helping our campuses. This would get 6 campuses that are currently over capacity, under capacity. So that was remarkable that the committee was able to accomplish. The 7th school, Creighton, it did not get it completely under capacity, but it got it reduced by 250 students. We already have 16 portables there. I doubt we would have to keep all 16 portables there, but it has the full backing of the administrative staff at Creighton, and particularly Tricia Thacker, the principal. So we're able to do this, and I do want to make sure I'm saying this. At the top end, this is a medium-term solution. This is not a long-term solution. There is just masses of people that are coming, they want to be a part of what we have, particularly in this area, but it gets 6 campuses that are over now under. 1 gets dramatic improvement. You can see the impact total at the bottom, outcoming and incoming. 44% of the impact would be kids that are moving specifically to Bartlett Elementary. Questions we get normally at this juncture is, this is the big one. Our family moved specifically to our home to attend this school that we're attending. Why are you considering rezoning for our school? Well, we understand, being there boots on the ground for campuses, there are times when, we used to have just a couple of schools in Conroe ISD. And now we're looking at 65, about to opening up a 66th. And so if you look at it, we have times we have to add schools due to capacity. We've talked about this many times in workshops before, but it's more than just capacity. It's the ability to, the car lines, bathrooms, stairwells, there's a lot to it. So we take it seriously. We don't move any more often than we have to. A very close friend of mine always used to quote Newton's first law of motion. We like for an object at rest to stay at rest to the ability that it can. What grades would be impacted? Pre-K through 4. What about students that are currently finishing next year at a campus? For example, if a child was going to be a 4th grader at Patterson Elementary next year for 2024-2025, let's say they live in the northern Patterson zone, so they're getting relocated potentially to Bartlett, depending upon what you decide tonight. That child would be allowed to complete next year with a transfer request at Patterson. The parent would need to provide transportation. Let's just play it out further. If that incoming 4th grader also had an incoming 2nd grade sibling, we normally would allow that 2nd grade sibling to transfer for that 1 year also, provided they could provide transportation. That is an overview. I'm here for questions so that I don't forget the most important thing. What we're asking for tonight is that you consider recommending elementary scenario 9.1.2 for the initial boundary zone for Janet K. Bartlett Elementary School and adjustments to impacting Caney Creek High School and Conroe High School elementary campuses.
Thank you. Do we have a motion first before we have discussion?
Motion to accept.
Second.
A motion and a second. Questions? Discussion? Hearing none?
Can you go back to the, the slide with the numbers? Yeah, no.
Here?
No, one.
There were several slides with
I
numbers.
know. You knew it. You read my mind. No, this is not it. The ones with the ins and outs and all the.
You're going the wrong way.
You're going the wrong way, man. Keep going, keep going.
No whammies, no
Okay,
whammies. Stop.
Oh. Yes, please.
You have to remember,
Please.
she's an accountant. She like, the
Freeze.
more numbers, the better. You gotta-
Freeze.
all the numbers.
With all the numbers. Okay, thank you. And can you just remind me, like, you've had some nights at the elementaries here that are impacted to answer parents' questions and hear their concerns. What are some things you've heard regarding feedback on this scenario?
Well, in the 2 different meetings, I had boots on the ground in person. I had one parent show up.
Okay.
The one parent lived right by Bartlett Elementary. They currently go to Patterson, and they were just inquiring if they would go to Bartlett Elementary. And I could tell them, I can't tell you for sure. It depends on what the board recommends. But being that close to Bartlett Elementary, where you can almost see it out your bedroom window, there'd be a very high probability that you would attend Bartlett Elementary. In general, they were in favor. The ones that I talked to on the phone that called me just along the way, just car lines, just things you don't necessarily think of initially, just getting relief and understanding the amount of traffic that was coming. That was one bit of feedback I got also. We had 2 bits of feedback that came through that ABC portal. One was just a question about one scenario, and another question is about where we thought they might go.
Okay.
So I don't know if that helps. That's what we got.
Well, thank you to the committee to get so many of the schools impacted in a positive way. We have a real capacity problem there, as you showed us, and so I never hoped that 6 different schools would get relief, but that y'all came up with a scenario that provides that much relief to that many campuses. I appreciate that. Thank you.
We tried hard. Thank you.
Just for clarification.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. McCord, when you said, I think you called it a mid-level solution, estimation on how many years? So when people ask, like, how long is it going to be before we change again? What would we say? That term.
Well, it's going to impact different campuses differently. My concern is in the north. Sweetwater Ridge, coming in the far northeast, is going to be a rainmaker. Cielo is over 2,000 homes. Pine Acre Trails, right by the school, is over 900 homes. So we have some capacity for portables. We don't have to do this, but I hate to estimate because it's hard to know for sure, but I would just say just a few years.
So
now,
less
we may
than
be able to come back and do a
5.
minor tweak, but my biggest concern is going to be for Patterson, Austin, and Bartlett. Anderson, we just don't have a lot of capacity to grow. It's kind of landlocked. It is landlocked. But I'm just concerned about that corridor north of 105 and just maybe east of the airport. That corridor has tremendous amount of land, potential for growth. Developers are finding it. As infrastructure gets put out there and there's more utilities, it's going to be much more attractive to build there, and people have found it. They found that part of our district.
Okay, thank you.
But the reality is there won't be a major restructuring in this
That was
area
my
until we have
next
a next bond, because there's none of these schools will have capacity to move kids, so it'll be about adding portables. The another elementary in this area was the you think NCAA basketball tournament bracket. It was the first 4 out. It was the one. The next new school, had we added one additional new school to the last bond, would have been another elementary in this area. So it didn't make the cut in the bond committee, so it's out. So in all likelihood, when we are reaching a point we're talking about the next bond cycle, a solution here will be like probably at the very highest priority, much along those same lines that we think about Suchma today. It's the same scenario 4 years ago. The elementary to relieve Suchma was the first thing, or the last thing that didn't make it. So, we're probably going to be in a similar situation here 4 years from now, whenever that may be.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we have a motion to accept 9.1.2 scenario. I'll call the vote. All those in favor show by the uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very good, very good. All right, moving on to item 6A, which is receive recommendation from the Student Health Advisory Council regarding requiring parents to opt into human sexuality instruction.
All right, Dr. Upshaw is going to make her way up. I want to just say a special thank you to Mr. McCord, too. You all can't imagine, because he knows there's not another school in this next bond, and to tell you the amount of time that he spent in his office, and I would just walk up there and he's just staring at these maps. There's a giant team of people that do great work, but that guy is unbelievable. So I just want to say thank you to Mr. McCord for that. So.
Good evening, President Hubert, members of the board, and Dr. Knoll. I come to you tonight with a recommendation, most recent recommendation from our SHAC, which is our Student Health Advisory Council. They have asked for the board to consider putting into place the opting in for the required human sexuality curriculum. So if I can give you some more additional information. Currently, there are 4 letters that we use in which a current statute is in place for us to make sure that if you're going to receive information, for example, in 5th and 6th grade, it's a human growth and development class, right? It's also the prevention of child abuse and family violence, dating violence, and human trafficking. That's in 6th grade. And then there's a letter for the human sexuality, reproduction, and health instruction. That's from 8th grade to 12th grade when you're taking your health course, because health is required for our students to graduate. And those students also receive the instruction of the prevention and child abuse, family violence, dating violence, et cetera. So in the current statute and in current board policy, legal policy, the statute is that the parents have to receive a letter 14 days prior to the instruction, and the parents have to say, yes, my child will participate. This is a change from past years. Until this legislation which is in place, a parent had to say, I want to opt my child out. Okay? So the statute expires. current statute expires August 1st of 2024, and the SHAC would like the board to consider making this part of your policy.
I'm thoroughly confused.
Well, hold on. Can we get a motion first
I-
like we've had in the past?
I'd like to make a motion that we accept this to be permanent in our policy for opting in to sex ed.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Williams.
So you're saying, make sure I understand this in the most simplistic form. Classes that are required now, right? We're asking back to this whole opt-in thing, and I think we had something about book opting in and all this other good stuff. You want to send me another piece of paperwork that says my kid should take the classes that he's required to take as a parent?
So he's required to take the class, but for this certain portion of the class, which is the instruction on human sexuality, or like I mentioned, human trafficking, dating violence, so on and so forth, we have to let the parents know we're going to be teaching this in the next couple of weeks. Would you like your child to participate? That's currently the practice we have in our district because of the Texas Education Code.
So if I don't respond, what happens?
The child does not participate. Normally, the teacher will call or someone will check, but that pretty much says that you would not like your child to
I
participate.
got one that graduated. Did I have to sign something that said he had to do that?
It depends what.
Your wife probably signed it.
I was going to say, don't you have kids in the
It depends
district?
what year they took the course. Most students take Health 1, 8th grade. Some students try to get ahead. They do it in 8th grade, or they do it their freshman year.
Yeah, to
Doc-
answer your question, hold on a second. To answer your question, I want my kids to take everything off. So I think this is another burden that we put on parents who ask them to do something that's historically we've always, done. So
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sure.
I'm done.
How long have we had the opt-in policy, or that we've had the note going out to parents?
This is our 3rd year.
Okay.
And it was put into statute 3 years ago. So the first year to do it was in 2021, 2022.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And it was required. It was required. And it was also in statute that it needed to be a separate communication from any other communication. So it couldn't be like the beginning of the year packet. Right?
I recently received
Yes.
it, so
Okay,
I was so
good.
excited. I'm like, yay,
I'm glad
it's
to know it
working.
works.
Yes. Yeah, and I would like to commend you as well for being transparent, because not only was there an opt-in form that stated, what the class was and what they would be discussing, but there was also a fully transparent slideshow, the presentation that you guys are actually using in the class that parents could look at and look to see what it was exactly that you were signing off on. So I'd like to commend you guys for that.
Thank you, Trustee Nelson. I'm not going to take full credit. I'm just representing up here. That was the work of the SHAC,
Yeah.
right? They helped us with the PowerPoint.
As
We had a
co-chair,
parent- Absolutely.
yes, thank you.
The parents helped us with all of that. It's on our website today,
Yeah.
and all of that information is in
Yes,
the
that
letter.
was very transparent, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
And Dr. Upshaw, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Haymark mentioned, I think that we have a 98% return rate on those forms in the SHAC.
97%.
Okay,
Yes.
that's pretty high. And a majority of them aren't necessarily opting their children out.
Well, 97% of them are opting the children in.
I realize, but, and that's what I'm saying is that 97%, the parents are still having the say in what happens with their child when it comes to human sexuality and so forth. So that's pretty darn good, that response. For
97 are opting in, but how many are actually responding?
97, well, all of them are responding, and 97% of them.
Oh, you're getting a
yes.
response
Yes.
from everyone. Okay, great.
So I just wanted
It's
to,
about
I mean, that's
4,000 students. So
that's pretty darn high. I would venture to bet you don't have very many things that get that high of a percentage in response. So that's good. And it wasn't that I would like to state that the legislators weren't necessarily just not renewing it. They just expected that by this point, our districts would make their own decisions on what to do at this point. So I would like to say that it isn't just that they didn't think there wasn't a need for it, so.
And there are 2 ways that the district can do this, that you can advise us as our governing body to do this. We can make it part of our administrative procedure, or you can decide with the guidance of our general counsel to add it to the policy. So I hope I didn't confuse anybody, but that's why I added that policy, because that's where that would live.
That's why I made the motion the way I did, so that it would be part of policy, not a procedure.
So if I'm correct, this is what we did last year.
Yes, sir. Last year was our 2nd year.
We want to make it part of policy now.
So,
It has been
yeah,
for-
presently, it lives in board legal policy
Mm-hmm.
because it's part of a law. That law is expiring, so then it would no longer be present in legal policy. As a staff, talking to Dr. Upshaw, it's fully our intention to continue with the practice. The practice, we believe, is a positive one, works, as we've heard, the numbers, the practice works, right? So we fully intend to continue with the practice. The question really before you today is, how do you want to memorialize that practice? It can be memorialized in administrative procedure, or if we want to have it in policy, it will no longer be in legal policy, because when that statute expires, our legal policy will automatically update. So you would need to make it part of local policy. So if we want to make it part of local policy, that's fine. But if that is your
That's our
vote to-
motion.
Yeah,
That is
exactly.
our
So if that
motion
is your
right now.
vote today, then we would go through the normal policy change process. So we'd be then, asking Ms. Gladys to draft a policy or update the local policy with this being part of that. We'd bring it back next month for a reading and bring it back the next month for approval. Once again, the current legal policy is in place until August, so we have plenty of time to make that happen if that's what your wishes are.
You support this?
I support that we give the letter. My suggestion was at the shack that we could take care of administrative policy only because if we added to a policy and then the education code changes again, then we're changing the policy again. So that either way, the practice of the letter and informing the parents, and to what Trustee Nelson's comments were, the fact that we put out there, this is the curriculum you'll be receiving. It gives parents the time, or the video you'll be watching. It gives parents time to review the video, have the conversation with their child if they show which, before they have the instruction. And just being a mom of two boys, that was very awkward. So I did appreciate being able to know where the video was and to be able to have that conversation prior to. So the letter of the parents receiving prior, I do agree with that. Whether it goes into administrative procedure or into board policy, either way, if it's good practice, we're going to continue good practice in administrative procedure. So it's really up to your decision how you would like to move forward with that.
Since Trustee Williams hasn't seen the document that comes out, can you go into detail a little bit more? I know you touched on it, what specific classes or specific sections it pertains to?
Yes, and I actually printed them. I don't know if anybody can. So there are 4 letters, and so the 5th and 6th grades, the human growth and development part, and then for 6th grade and also for 8th through 12th, it's the prevention and child abuse, family violence, dating violence, and human trafficking. And then the letter also for human sexuality and reproductive health instruction.
I'm good.
Thank you.
Trustee Williams teaches all the sexual education need to be taught at my house, so just FYI.
Well,
So you would opt out?
it doesn't matter. So my,
Personal affairs.
so I remember this coming up, and I appreciate it coming, but I understand that it's our current practice right now, and I understand that we want to continue to move that practice. Whether, for me, whether it's in policy or in procedure, I think it will be enforced either way. If the SHAC's recommendation to us is to put it in policy, I think that would be something for me to obviously support as well. Just my thoughts. Any other thoughts?
Do we have a motion? Are we
Yes,
voting
ma'am.
tonight?
Yes, ma'am.
What's the motion?
That we put it into policy.
Oh, okay, great.
I know, it's okay, she could answer, that's fine. All right, I will call the vote. All those in favor of the motion show by the uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? All right, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Upshaw.
All right, moving on to item 7A, which is consider and select construction manager at risk for the new junior high school project in the Conroe feeder zone, and authorize the superintendent to negotiate and execute the construction management at risk documents.
All right.
You're so anxious.
Pinch hitting tonight for Easy Foster.
Yeah.
Is Mr. McCord for our next few planning construction items.
Equally as witty, though.
Oh, no question.
President Hubert, members of the board, and Dr. Knoll. Tonight, we present for your consideration and selection of the construction manager at risk for the new junior high school in the Conroe feeder zone. The project is located on a piece of property recently purchased by Conroe ISD. It is located on FM 1314, just south of Loop 336. As the crow flies, it's just east of Wilkinson Elementary. It will be on the east side of FM 1314. It's a beautiful piece of property. It's planned to accommodate 1,600 students per capacity. Board policy CV local facilities construction deems construction manager at risk as the construction delivery method that provides the best value for district construction projects valued at or above $100,000. Accordingly, the district's design architect DLR Group and CISD prepared and published a two-step request for qualifications for construction managers at risk. 8 companies responded to the request for qualifications, which is step 1. State law, Texas Government Code 2269 allows more than 5 firms to advance past step 1 to step 2, and 5 firms did. Step 2 is the request for pricing, and each firm responds to the request for pricing by submitting pre-construction services, which includes estimating, site investigations, phase of planning, and overall project planning. General conditions fee, which includes the site for cost superintendent, project manager, temporary toilets, job trailers, etc. And fee is the overall profit for the project. Duratech was selected as the offerer that has been determined the best value for the district based on the published criteria. I believe the rankings included in your board item as well, maybe. So I'm here tonight to ask for the approval, if you deem it appropriate, of Duratech to be the constructor for the new junior high within the Conroe High School feeder zone.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'm still quite perplexed why we telegraph what our maximum amount we will pay for a building. And I know that's really not the question for you, but it was something I was going to state to Easy Foster, is that we tell them, we won't pay any more than this, so make sure we stay under this when we're going into a deal. I mean, that is just crazy. Why not let them put their cards on the table and see what they can build it for? This CM at risk is just driving me crazy that I don't understand why we put everything out there telling them, don't go over this and it'll be okay. I just don't get that, but that's it. I just needed to say it.
Part of that, the bid process is a closed bid process, correct?
Very much.
Yeah, so each people who are competing for the business, they don't know what the other person is bidding for that, so that kind of helps mitigate.
But they know what our maximum price we will build for.
No, don't work like that.
Not necessarily, but
They still have to compete.
That's right.
they still have to compete for the business.
You all won't approve a guaranteed maximum price for this job until the future. We have not set a guaranteed maximum price yet for this job.
But the process, what I guess I wasn't clear about, and I apologize, is we took the bids or made the decision on who to do the deal with. And then we're going to tell them what our maximum price is. So in this particular case, it's Duratech. And then when we go out to build, when we start working with them, we tell them, this is how much we're going to build for and nothing more.
No, that's not how the process
That's not
works.
how it
Yeah,
works.
no, it's not, it doesn't go, so Mr. Foster and I wish that Easy was here, and Darren may be able to help us a little bit with this too, but the process is, with the architectural firm and Mr. Foster and the construction manager will all sit together and they will get bids for each individual, masonry's always one that's crazy
They
expensive.
do it for each step,
Concrete,
yes.
But then together, they will build the package of what they believe it will cost. The constructor does not get to, we don't just put a number out there and let them work to it. We're working together with those 3 entities to establish, based on market conditions, what we believe the cost of that building will be. And then that's the number they bring to you all. So there's not a target for them to shoot at. Not, Mr. Rice, if you want to, if anything wrong there or?
No, that is exactly,
Okay.
The process that we go through, as those contractors get together. What we're asking now, what they did, they gave us their fee, which is a percentage of what that GMP will be, but that GMP is not determined until, further into the process.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion, a second, and discussion. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion show by the uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? Motion carries. All right, thank you. Moving on to item B, which is consider and select construction manager at risk for the Caney Creek High School 9th grade campus project and authorize the superintendent to negotiate and execute the construction manager at risk documents.
Okay, there's going to be a little bit of duplication, but I'll do my best. So at this time, we present for your consideration the selection of the construction manager at risk for the new Caney, the new Caney Creek 9th grade campus. The project is located on a piece of property owned by Conroe ISD. It's located on FM 1485, just north of 242. It's actually on the west side of 1485 there, right before you get to 242. It's planned for 1,600 students also. Board policy CV, local facilities construction deemed CMA at risk, the best value for about over $100,000. Accordingly, the district design architect PBK in CISD prepared and published a two-step request for qualifications for construction managers at risk. 8 companies, again, responded to the request for qualifications, which is step 1. State law allows us to advance no more than 5. 5 did advance. Step 2 is the request for pricing for each firm, responding to the request by submitting pre-construction services, again, general conditions fee, and a fee. Duratech was selected as the offer that's been determined to be the best value for the district. Based on the published criteria, the ranking is included in your board item as well. So that would be for the Caney Creek 9th grade campus, the new one.
Motion approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor show by the uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? The motion carries. Very good. All right. And now receive capital improvement updates.
All right, so here we go. So we'll start off with Safety and Security 2023-2024. Remember, this is part of the 2019 bond, but it's called Safety and Security 2023-2024. This is the final installment of the district-wide effort to improve the systems at our campuses to help maintain a safe and secure environment that are related to the 2019 bond. Just some things that you need to know. It includes cameras, access controls, also I would call them card readers, impact-resistant film at the entries, first responder radio antenna infrastructure, which we're required to have, emergency generator additions, which are really appreciated in weather such as this, and replacements if they're needed. So those are part of Safety and Security 2023-2024. We plan and are on track to be concluded with this by the end of 2024 in December. So that's where we are in Safety and Security. This is Janet K. Bartlett Elementary. I spoke to you about this a few minutes ago. This is looking at it from the west-northwest. You can see the distinct entryway there, the little A-arched entry where you come in. Obviously, it's very similar to Gordon Reed and Hines, and so we're excited about it. It is moving along swimmingly and is on schedule. Exterior masonry is about 90% complete. Roofing is 90% complete, as you can see. The next milestone is to be completely dry and be 100% dry to be able to work. Also, the electrical is imminently about to be activated, as is the air conditioning, which is always popular. Delivery of chillers is online and startup of the HVAC system. So Janet K. Bartlett Elementary, it's a really big deal and we're excited. This is Conroe High School, so I always do a little different when I speak. This is Conroe High. So if you look in the middle, you will see the steel that is going vertical right there in the middle of the picture. You've probably seen the crane that's across the street. That crane will be there about another 2 weeks, and then said crane will be departing our area. But it is on schedule for completion in December of 2025. The steel going vertical is on schedule. Masonry and roofing are in progress to enclose the building envelope of the fine arts section and eventually the cafeteria that you see right there to get dried in. So fine arts, dining commons, and the kitchen will be ready for school when students return in August of 2024. And let me tell you, those are really big, but I can tell you personally, having a enlarged cafeteria is enormous for that place. So it's going to be fantastic.
Sure.
We're really excited. But for me, I think this is important. For every time I fill in for Easy, I show this slide. And I do it for me as much as I do it for the studio audience to try to remember, what's it going to look like when we're done? So if you look here, this is looking from the west. This is actually looking from the east-northeast. And you can see the front entry. And I think this helps. The area that's highlighted there That's the area where you saw the steel right here. You see the steel in the middle? That is what you're looking at right there. So this is what it will look like when it's done, December 2025. We meet with Tasha across the street often. They're excited, and I cannot say enough good things about the students and staff working with us in the construction of the new Conroe High School there. So that we're excited about it. Oak Ridge, this is looking at Oak Ridge. This is looking, I believe this is looking from the northwest. If I was to look here, looking at Oak Ridge High School, you look at the road, all that's really left to be done besides adding a few plants is that road. But if you look at the north road, which is the road on your left, Entergy has some poles, some electrical poles in the road. And we all know, well, that's not great. Entergy had an engineered plan to remove those poles. They shelved it. They've done another plan to relocate those poles. They've approved their plan. All we're waiting on now is to have the Entergy construction team contact us to let us know when they're going to move those electrical poles from the road. And this will be a great day for the people of Oak Ridge, Mr. Allman and everyone involved at Oak Ridge when that road goes into action. So we're excited about that. It's a really big deal. I can tell you also on behalf of the transportation group, you're looking here at the bottom, that is the new administrative offices of the Conroe Transportation Center. The Conroe Transportation Center is located on Gladstone. It's right by Armstrong Elementary. If you look at the bottom and you see that facility, currently they're operating out of 2 or 3 portables, and they are shoehorned in there and a portable restroom that's on a trailer. So this is a huge upgrade. They are elated, they're excited, we are in. We're still working out a few things, getting things hooked up, but it's a really big deal. If you look at the top, that's on the same site on the right and the bottom. That is a new expanded shop bay for the people at the Conroe Transportation Center, which is much needed. So we're really excited about the Conroe Transportation Center. And on, what is today? This is Tuesday. On Friday, I was at the East County Transportation Center. They are now in there. They are out of their portable buildings also. And Dina Weaver and her team are elated. It's just a huge deal for them. And so we're really excited. So thank you, thank you, thank you. That's what I have.
Very good.
right.
Thank you for that. Any questions? All right, very good. All right, before we move on to item 8A, the time is about 7:40. Want to know if we wanted to take a quick break? All right.
We took one.
All right. Saying none, we will keep going then. Okay, very good. Just thought I'd ask. All right, so item 8A is consider and award CSP number 23-1004 job order contract program.
All right, Mr. Reeves.
Let's roll. I'm ready to go too.
Very good.
Good evening, President Hubert, members of the board, and Dr. Knoll. Tonight we're requesting the board considers awarding CSP 23-1004 job order contract program to the following vendors for an estimated expenditure of $1 million. We have All Play Incorporated, Amoresco Incorporated, Azteca Designs and Construction, Brown and Root Industrial Services, Construction Managers of Southeast Texas, Cunningham Recreation, GTT General Contractors, Horizon International Group, Joris General Contractors, LMC Corporation, Marshall Construction Company, McKenna Contracting, and Nash Industries. The competitive seal proposals pertaining to the district's job order contract program was released in conjunction with the Gordian Group, who was approved by the board in April 2016 to assist with the district's job order contract program. The bid proposal was emailed to registered vendors through the district's electronic e-bidding system and advertised multiple times in the Courier and also on the district's website. A pre-proposal meeting was hosted by the district and the Gordian Group approximately 2 weeks after the release of the bid to answer questions. Vendors were asked to bid their adjustment factors based on the Gordian Group construction task catalog, which contains construction-related tasks with preset unit prices on various construction services. All unit prices are based on local labor, material, and construction services. And equipment prices and are for the direct cost of construction. The adjustment factor pricing will remain firm through January of 2025, renewing annually with 4 optional 1-year terms through January of 2029. These proposals were evaluated by our Planning and Construction Department and reviewed by the Purchasing Department. Best value offers are recommended for award. Funds are provided in the general fund. At this time, we request your approval.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion, do you have a second? We have a second. Ms. Dungan, any questions? All right, saying none, all those in favor show by the uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? All right, motion carries. Very good. All right, item B, which is consider and award RFP 23-1201 school buses.
Again, we're requesting that the board considers awarding RFP 231201 for school buses to the following vendors for an estimated expenditure of $12 million. The vendors are Longhorn Bus Sales, Thomas Bus Gulf Coast, and Rush Bus Centers. The requests for proposals pertaining to the purchase of school buses for the district were emailed to registered vendors through the electronic e-bidding system, advertised on the purchasing website, and multiple times in the courier. Unit pricing was requested for new buses and a catalog discount to quote, used vehicles through January of 2025. 3 vendors submitted bid responses. The proposals were evaluated by the CISD Transportation Department and reviewed by the Purchasing Department. Funds for these purchase of new buses provided in the CISD Capital Projects Fund. Best value offers are recommended for board award, and at this time, we request your approval.
All right. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
So these buses are new to us, but not necessarily
new.
brand new. So they are brand new.
Yes, ma'am.
And then what would be the delivery time?
We are looking at approximately 9 to 12 months.
Okay, so maybe we'll have them by next
At the end of
spring.
fall.
Okay, thank you.
I have a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. So you did say that you advertised in the Courier, new or used, but you're saying the people that were awarding it to, they didn't have a used option?
They did respond. There was an option to, if they had used, then they responded and gave us
Okay.
that option as well, so.
And then where are we at for our previous order for buses? We still haven't received those from the last bond,
We have
correct?
some. I think we have approximately, hold on, I'll pull that for you.
Mr.
So we
McCord
have
probably has that.
about 40 still coming in.
Still coming
so that
in. When are
rolling
those due to come in?
We're probably within the next 6 to 8 months. And with
So
this
those
order,
are-
we're looking at we're going to get about 82 buses total.
So they're going to kind of all be rolling in at the same time. Why are those taking so much longer than these?
Well,
Just-
those were all ordered during COVID, so
Oh.
the lead times were much, much longer.
Okay.
So, and this group, some of these are already in production, so this
Okay.
is going to help out with that lead time and getting them here sooner.
Great.
In the words of Mr. McCord, for the studio
The studio
audience,
audience?
could you tell us how many buses this is for that we're looking at purchasing?
So there'll be approximately 72, 77 passenger and about 10, 53 passenger buses.
Thank you.
What does that individual cost? Once again, just for the world to
So
know,
the
what's the current cost of a bus?
77s are about 148,000, and then the 53s are about 137,000.
Okay.
So,
Did any of that come from grant money
these are all for what we had put in for the
from the
bond,
bond?
so the
So
12 million that
nothing,
was
do we have
signed.
anything additional from for grant money on the buses?
I know we're
We're looking at it.
I'll let Mr. McCord answer.
Oh.
He's
Did
going to
your
say
exercise
he's going to
tonight.
say we're efforting. I'm just going to guess. Yes.
Well, we have a grant called the DARA grant that we've applied for. This is a competitive grant, DERA. We're still waiting to hear. It would potentially, depending upon what we would do, it would match us $750,000. So, but it's competitive. We're going against people all over the country. But I think we have a puncher's chance of getting it. So that would be enormous. But we would have to do a contribution of 3/4, and they would match it 1/4 up to $750,000. So that's where we are right now.
Okay, thank you.
Are these buses replacements or adding to the fleet?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
So I think the plan right now is there's probably about, 30, with Mr. McCord we're talking about, that are either age or no AC that we're looking at removing from the fleet.
Just to remind everyone, we wanted that commitment to get our entire fleet to be air conditioned.
Yes.
And to do that, we purchased used buses from another school district. And so while it did achieve that, there are older units, so we are replacing some of those. Once again, back to the bond conversation, even with this $12 million that they allocated in the bond for buses, we're still at a point, and Mr. McCord could get me right, could probably tell me exactly the number, but 4 years from now, we're still going to be at 50% of our fleet over age, even with all of these new, because we're needing to add them. We're not adding them fast enough to get the new routes and replace the aging fleet. So we'll have a future workshop. One of the things that's a benefit of the current interest market, like we'd love to be able to sell our bonds at those low numbers we used to, that we can't. But one of the benefits that we have now is that we do earn some interest money. on our bond funds while we hold them. And one of the recommendations we will likely bring to you in the future is to take some of that interest earning and let's move it directly into the bus fund, and let's continue to order buses as quickly as we can. So that's to try to catch up if we can.
And for the studio audience, I love that. The reason why we're not factoring in depreciation on our buses into our budget?
It's not how we're funded. That's a capital expenditure. So we're funded the way that the way school district funding works in the state of Texas. We're funded to educate children on an annual basis. That's our maintenance and operations budget. Buses are considered a capital expenditure, just as schools, a building would be. And the way that the funding formula works for capital expenditures is you use bond funds for capital expenditures. So that's how we function with that.
And with what we've seen in pricing of buses the last few years, take advantage of it now because they're not going to get any cheaper.
Sure.
So.
Right. So with that being said, would this be something with the bus issue that, like with the overages of the buildings, that we move money out of the general fund into the
To the capital maintenance fund?
Right.
Or, yes.
And let us catch up on our fleet?
Yeah,
at some
I think it's
point?
certainly, that's, I think, when you have additional funds at the end of the year, and those may come in a variety of ways. So let's say, it's not going to happen this year, but in previous years, we've had situations where there's, at the end of the year, $7 million goes into the fund balance. Okay? And over time, you build that fund balance up, and you might reach a point where we're $25 million over our stated target.
Yeah.
And so the board can then make a decision what to do with that $25 million. What we've typically done with extra money like that is always focus on future debt avoidance. That can take on different views, right? A lot of times it's land. You use it to buy land, and then you don't end up having to use bond funds for land, or we build an addition to a school, or we can buy more buses. We have never focused as much on the bus side, but I think that's a recommendation that I would make to you, and we'll be talking about that in February. It's one of the recommendations we'll bring. Is one of the other ways these monies come forward, like I said, is we're going to sell $600 million, we've sold, I don't know if we've closed yet, but we've sold $600 million worth of bonds. As that money is sitting in the bank, it's earning interest, and the recommendation would be use that interest to buy buses because it will lower the amount we'll have to ask for in the future for bond funds to buy buses.
I think that would go a long way with the community, just
think
knowing
so
that we're
too.
making an effort to catch up where we've been falling behind.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, I will call the vote. All those in favor show by the uplifted hand. And any opposed by the same signs. All right, very good. The motion carries. Thank you
And to
very
be clear
much.
with that, as Mr. Reeves mentioned, the bond committee approved $12 million to purchase buses. Remember, it's a 4-year bond, so typically we would roll out, $3 million a year over 4 years. Darren has been able to work the math where it has worked out with Mr. Foster in construction that we are going to use the full $12 million today and order every bus we can that was in that bond package today. Get it as fast as we can, put it in use, but also it's cheaper today than it ever will be.
Yeah.
So we're going to make that happen.
But the financing of that is over a 10-year time period
Correct.
for buses.
Yes, we pay buses off in 10.
Right.
We use them for 20.
But we pay on
Yes.
to it. Yeah, there was some confusion on that, so I want to make
Yes.
sure we were clear.
Absolutely.
That it's only 10 years.
Thank you, Mr. Reed.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, very good.
You're a little more credible with them glasses on you had last time.
Moving on up.
All right, speaking of moving on up, here we go. 9A, which is consider and approve the 2022-2023 annual comprehensive financial report. Ms. Garza.
We have Ms. Garza come forward as a reminder that the audit committee of your board was here bright and early last week to hear a more extensive report, made a recommendation to bring this forward to you today. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Garza for the introduction.
Good evening, President Hubert, members of the board, and Dr. Knoll. It is my pleasure to recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the 2022-2023 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, also known as the ACFR. As Dr. Knoll mentioned, the Audit Committee did receive an extensive presentation of the document at last week's Audit Committee meeting and voted unanimously to recommend approval to the full board. Sarah Roberts, partner with the district's audit firm Weaver, is here this evening with a brief presentation of the financial statements and to answer any questions that you may have.
When did they change it from CAFR to AFR?
2 years ago.
I gotta stay on top of things. Yeah. All right.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. As Karen mentioned, I did have the opportunity to be here last week, Wednesday morning, to meet with your audit committee. So here tonight to give you more of an abbreviated presentation, but more so to answer any questions that you have. Happy to address anything that you would like to talk about. So we completed our audit last week, and we issued our reports last week. We issued 3 reports for the type of audit we do for Conroe ISD. 2 of those reports are our reports on the financial statements. So we perform an audit of the financial statements, and we issue a report that includes our opinion on the financial statements. We also issue a report on our consideration of internal controls over financial reporting as it relates to the financial statements. And we issue one more report, which is our report on federal awards. So our audit encompasses the financial statements and also federal award compliance, as well as other compliance items that could have a material effect on the financial statements. The types of reports we issued: first, our report on the financial statements with our opinion on the financial statements. Our opinion was unmodified, which is a clean opinion. It's the highest level of assurance that we can provide that your financial statements are materially, fairly presented in accordance with the applicable criteria, which is generally accepted accounting principles. Our report on internal controls and compliance pertaining to the financial statements was also a clean report, no reportable findings, which would include material or significant deficiencies in internal controls or material noncompliance. So we did not identify any such items in our report. Last report on federal award compliance, we issued an unmodified or clean opinion on federal award compliance. Also, no reportable findings and no material weaknesses in internal control pertaining to federal award compliance. We had 2 major programs. These are the focus of our federal award compliance audit. Those were Title I and the district's ESSER program, the COVID-19 program. Those 2 awards comprised 50% of the district's total federal expenditures for fiscal year 2023. Next, I'm going to just briefly touch on the financial statements. I'm including the financial statements of the district's general fund, which is the main operating fund of the district. So you'll see here on this slide the district's general fund balance sheet. So the assets, liabilities, and equity traditionally in the governmental context is fund balance, and I know you're aware of that. Comparative information: total fund balance was about $164 million at the end of fiscal year 2023, compared to $182 million at the end of the previous year. The ratio of unassigned fund balance, which means undesignated, uncommitted, unrestricted fund balance available for general use, to total fund balance, 94% for fiscal year 2023 compared to 95.2% for fiscal year 2022. And you might notice a bit of a decrease year over year, and that is shown on the next slide, which is the general fund statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance, which is like the income statement. Total expenditures increased. Net change in fund balance, you'll see, is $18 million negative for fiscal year 2023, and this is relevant to your previous discussion about transfers, because you can see on the slide with the green box is really what that decrease in fund balance is attributed to, and that is a transfer out of the general fund into the capital projects fund, so transfers within the district to the various funds for capital purposes in fiscal year 2023. On the topic of financial statements, I also would like to inform you that your ACFR will be submitted for additional review to 2 additional independent associations. Those are the Association of School Business Officials, also known as ASBO, and Government Finance Officers Association, also known as GFOA. These 2 associations are nonprofit organizations with missions that are consistent with the promotion of quality and transparency and consistency in financial reporting for governmental entities. They both offer voluntary participation in programs that they administer that involve additional review, voluntary submission of the ACFR, and an application for review. And your district has chosen to participate in these programs. The ACFRs for the last many years have gone through these levels of review and have been awarded certificates of achievement for excellence in financial reporting. And I suspect that your fiscal year 2023 ACFR will as well. Both of those associations involve voluntary members that perform these reviews. I myself am a member of the GFOA Special Review Committee. So I've seen a lot of ACFRs. I will not be the GFOA reviewer on this one, but based on my experience, I'm very confident that you will receive those awards for 2023.
Okay.
Any questions? I'm happy to.
So just so I'm understanding, these reviewers are voluntary?
Yes.
Are they volunteers?
Yes, and the review boards consist mostly of industry professionals with experience in accounting and financial reporting to a degree that enables them to, I guess, so subject matter expert status.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions for Ms. Roberts? So, let me see here.
I have a quick
Yeah,
question.
I was just waiting for the motion. Okay, yeah, let's go ahead and have a motion, then we'll have you answer your questions.
Motion to accept.
Have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions?
Go ahead, Ms. Wood.
Okay, so what we're presenting, or what has been presented to us, we're affirming that it's accurate, correct?
No.
I'm just trying to make sure I understand.
We're accepting their report as accurate. That is correct.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I do.
Sure.
The part that was brought forward by the district is separate from just the financial part that she said, right?
The part that
It was like
brought to the
200
district.
pages long. My main concern is, it isn't really it's not really directed at you, so I apologize, and it's not a major issue, but I think it's important to correct because it is a public document, and that you are not an elected official, Mr. President, you are an appointed official for this session. And I like I said, I know that that's a minor detail, but it's a document that we're putting out, and it shows you as an elected official. But you're appointed
I'm not
because
following you.
your term ended and you were appointed for 2 years. You weren't elected for the last 2 years. So I was just saying that it should have an asterisk that you were appointed for not elected.
Mr. President, I move the vote.
Is there any relevance to what she's speaking about?
If it's factual, it's something that can be changed. This is, so the 200-page document,
Yes.
for your reference, is prepared almost entirely by your finance and accounting department. We, as the auditors, perform our external audit. We audit those financial statements and we audit compliance, and so we issue our reports. So our reports that you see that show the Weaver on
Yes,
that
ma'am.
comes from us. These additional elements, these get the elected officials, the transmittal letter, these are contents that are required for participation in these programs I was just talking about, voluntary programs. This is above and beyond the information that's required to be provided by generally accepted accounting principles. These are, the GFOA and ASBO requires this additional information about the reporting entity. So that being said, this is a document that can be changed, and there's not really a high degree of relevance to it, to what we do, because we're auditing the financial statements and we read everything in the report to determine whether there's any material misstatements of fact or material inconsistencies.
Yep.
So as far as we stand, we issued our audit opinions and our reports last week with a minor change to this page, and adding an asterisk on the page doesn't change anything about our reports. And my suggestion would be that you consider whether you want to do that.
So as far as from an auditing standpoint, this doesn't legally matter for
It doesn't
y'all?
matter, no.
And for anyone reviewing our documents, it
No.
doesn't legally matter?
No, it would not be considered a material misstatement of fact or a material inconsistency.
Thank
We've
you.
done, it's material.
That was my only concern. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Quick question. So am I on? Yes. The documents that were included, is that all included in the annual report or just your specific section? Like the line items and things? Is that in your annual report? I'm speaking specifically about the, my eyes are so bad. The federal awards. Would that be included in your annual report?
The federal award.
The federal awards section?
Yes, so if you see in that section, the federal awards section, there's a schedule that's entitled Schedule of Expenditures of Federal Awards. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
So that's within the scope of our audit.
Okay.
That, again, just like 99% of the contents of the annual financial report has been prepared by the district's personnel.
Okay.
And we audit that schedule. So we look at it and we perform substantive audit procedures that include, looking at source documents and verifying transactions and things of that nature to enable us to form a conclusion as to whether, in our opinion, that schedule is materially accurate and complete. So we do things like we compare it to last year's schedule, we compare it to our understanding of the grants and awards that the district has received.
Okay.
So we did not prepare it, we did audit it.
Got
And
it.
we select from that schedule our major programs for further detailed compliance testing.
Okay, yeah, I just have a quick question about that. I commend you, by the way. At my office, we're in the middle of our annual reports, and it's
a process.
It definitely is, so thank you. I also, I write a lot of grants, so I just had some questions about the Department of Education grants. I don't know if that's a you question or if that's someone else's, but just for clarification, I was just looking for a couple things in here. Through the Department of Education grants, there's a few funding that is.
Question in the report, that's fine.
I'm sorry?
No, I was just saying your question in the report, that's fine. What you're doing is fine.
Yeah, it's just a clarification. There's a few things in here that, the funding that we're receiving, so I'm just curious, how we, report back, like how we track the things that, we're receiving funding for.
Report to the granting agency?
Yes, like for instance, there's some, like for the homeless and homeless children and youth section, there's some grant money that's going out. So I was just curious how we're
So
tracking
most
that.
of this, and I don't know, Karen or Darren, if you want to speak to this, but most of these grants are administered and passed through the Texas Education Agency
Okay.
from the federal government. So federal to state level to local level. And so
Okay.
the district is reporting to the TEA.
Okay.
Expenditure reports about how the money is spent, and budget to actual type
Okay.
reports.
Okay, yeah, I was just specifically asking about the homeless and homeless children and youth. I just needed a little clarification on like the migrant and immigrant stuff and how we're tracking that, since we're reporting it to the Department of Education.
Yeah, some of these grants, depending on which ones they are, they do require programmatic reports to the agency on how the money is spent. Now, as Sarah said, we do report quarterly to TEA to tell them that we're spending money. We draw the money down through an expenditure reporting process, but not all of them require programmatic reports. Some of them do. We could get you some more information about what we're actually spending that money on if that's something that interests you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the report. All those, yes, ma'am, go ahead. Please.
If I could just say a few things. Ms. Roberts came in and spoke to the audit committee, as was mentioned last week, and we also talked about just what goes into having an external audit here. And this is over many months' activities. This is hundreds or thousands of hours, multiple people from Weaver here combing through financial transactions, talking to Mr. Rice, Ms. Garza, and their team. It is a lengthy and diligent process. And I think it is important to understand the level of effort that goes in producing these opinions, and also the level of effort coming from the district's team to support these activities on top of all the other things you have to do. So I just want the rest of the board to understand the audit committee has received this report in greater detail and reviewed it, and just know all of the effort and all of the work that goes behind what you see, and really a pretty short opinion. The word count does not represent the effort. So anyway, good job to Mr. Eisen, Ms. Garzing, your team. Thank you once again for preparing your work in a way that an external review yields an unmodified opinion. Really well done. Thank you.
All right. I will call the vote at this time. All those in favor of the motion to accept, show by the uplifted hand. And any opposed by the same sign. All right, and the motion carries. Thank you very much. All right, item, let's see, item 10A. I would like to make a motion on this one, and so in doing so, I need to relinquish control of the meeting, so I'm going to turn the time over to my Vice President, Ms. Teresa Wagner.
Very good. Very good, thank you. As we look at motion 10A, consider and approve the 2022, 10, legal, excuse me. Legal A, consider and approve resolution to accept volunteer chaplains.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make a motion.
What y'all doing?
Turn it over to Ms. Gladys for a little bit of
Okay,
explanation, and then
yeah.
Mad
you guys
Dash,
can
Mad
have
Dash, the motion.
no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Null. During the past legislative session, a bill was passed that requires school districts to take a record vote within 6 months of the bill's passage, which would be about March 1st of 2024.
Ms. Gladys, can you turn your microphone on?
I'm so sorry.
I hardly ever talk. So the statute requires the board to take a record vote within 6 months of passage of the bill, which would be by March 1st of 2024, regarding whether the district will pass or will adopt a policy that would allow chaplains to volunteer as chaplains, or whether the district would employ volunteers, or employ chaplains in their schools. And so that is what this item is. I'm recommending that you do it by a resolution. That is one way to have, record a record vote. Other districts have modified policies. You can just make a motion and pass it. It's really your
What's the
discretion.
motion we're making again?
Whether you are going to adopt a policy,
Adopt a
policy to either allow one or both volunteer chaplains in the schools, or employ chaplains to serve as chaplains in the schools.
I'd like to make a motion to, the actual resolution states.
Hold on, the chair needs to acknowledge you for the motion.
That's right.
Ms. Odenweiler.
Alrighty.
Sorry, Ms. Nelson.
All right. I would like to make a motion to amend the resolution, because the resolution only states volunteer, and I'd like to add hire.
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion?
I've got some discussion. So where would you want to add, like where, for the motion is to amend this resolution to say hire. Is that right?
Correct.
Where would you like for that to be?
Where it says, whereas SB 7623 passed by the Texas legislature requires each school board to take a vote between September 1st and March 1st on whether to adopt a policy authorizing a campus of the district to accept as a volunteer, and then I would insert or hire a chaplain.
Volunteer.
And also under therefore, wouldn't you, in the next paragraph?
Yeah, wherever volunteer is listed. Yeah, except as a volunteer or hire a chaplain in the following paragraph.
Ms. Chase, did you have a comment?
We're not, well, I gotta, point of clarification, we're voting to amend that, not necessarily voting to accept the resolution, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Is there any more discussion?
On the amendment.
On her motion to amend to add hire a chaplain under the second whereas.
So maybe we need Ms. Nelson to clarify. Are you just asking that the resolution be amended? You're not asking to vote on the resolution or approve it?
That was the
Or approve
motion.
it with the amendment?
Yes, I'm asking to approve it with the amendment. Yes.
No, ma'am, the motion was to amend. She wanted to amend the resolution.
What's the difference?
The difference is you want to
voting on
amend the
the resolution.
resolution, but we're not voting on the resolution, we're voting on the amendment. So your motion, that was motion and second
this
was
is
to
a-
amend.
We're voting on this.
Well, once again, you said, I'd like to amend the resolution. So we're not voting
We're
on
voting on the resolution.
We're voting on the amendment to the resolution. That's what I was trying to get at, is you want to add or hire. So your motion was to amend the resolution. So once it gets amended, then we would read the resolution to see if we want to
Okay, sure.
accept the resolution. But my clarification is I want to make sure we're putting it in the right place. So Senate, you're talking about on the second whereas, Senate Bill 763 passes by the 88th Texas Legislature requiring each school board to take a vote between September 1st, 2023 and March 1st, 2024 on whether to adopt a policy authorizing a campus of the district to accept as a volunteer or hire a chaplain.
Yes, and then in the following paragraph.
Okay, and where would that be?
Is order that the Board of Trustees of the Conroe Independent School District, as set out by the vote below, hereby permits a district campus to accept as a volunteer and then insert or hire a chaplain pursuant to the expectations of this resolution.
Okay. Okay, so the first part where it says whereas 23001 of the Texas Education Code permits school districts to accept as a volunteer a chaplain, and you want to put or hire there as well?
Correct.
Okay. It's to volunteer or hire a chaplain to provide support services and programs for students as designed by the board. As assigned by the board. Okay. Thank you. I just needed clarification on what you were adding.
Is there any more discussion on this amendment to the proposed resolution? No?
I would just like to point out that in the legislation, it uses the terms volunteer or hire in the actual legislation.
Okay. Anything else? No? All right, at this time, we'll go ahead and take a vote on this amendment. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed?
Wait, can you restate that?
To raise your hand?
No. Are we voting to approve the amendment?
We're voting to approve the amendment. Mhm. And 3 have voted yes, and to oppose, please vote now with your right hand.
Opposed?
Yes. All right, the motion does not pass.
I'd like to add, I'd like to make a motion. My motion is that we remove this from the agenda at this time and place it on future agendas, and place it for a future agenda for a future discussion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion?
That's it. We have until March 1st to vote on this. And then after March 1st, we can no longer have chaplains in the school as a volunteer. Correct?
I don't know that that's correct. They wanted, the legislature wanted the boards to take a vote on this by March 1st. I don't know that it precludes them from going
But if
forward by doing that.
if we vote no, that we don't want volunteer chaplains in the school, then that excludes volunteer chaplains that are currently in the schools.
We don't have any volunteer.
Yes,
any-
we do.
We maybe have volunteers that are chaplains outside of school, but aren't serving as chaplains as volunteers.
My son plays football, and there is a chaplain that comes to school during the school day and prays with the students, and is a beloved member of our community, and he's been serving in that role for the last 30-plus years.
And there are others that are doing that with teams or organizations, on campuses. So they are there. It's just not talked about.
What faith are these volunteers?
They're not allowed to, by law, they're not allowed to have an established faith.
What faith, teachings, upbringing, what faith, doctrine have they been brought up in, are they familiar with? I mean, what are they there to serve if they're not, delving into faith-based discussions or prayers, or who are they praying to?
It doesn't matter, it's involuntary, you're not forced.
Who are they praying to?
As far as chaplains go,
That's
trustee,
a question to the school, the folks who are allowing this to transpire, it's not necessarily to the board members.
if I'm not mistaken, this is board discussion time. Is that correct, I'm sorry,
Vice President.
Ms. President, sorry.
It is discussion, I believe Mr. Williams is directing to Dr. Knoll.
That's correct.
Yeah, we do have situations where we have volunteers all over the district doing a variety of different things. So we have volunteers that come in, they may, when you think of like a clergy member or somebody that may be faith-based, we have folks that come in and lead groups like Fellowship of Christian Athletes, Young Life as a religious affiliation. We have volunteers that come in, we allow for like youth leaders, they'll come in and have lunch with kids as well. So those things all happen. The key to those things, and that what we as a staff really always want to point out, is that, that's parents' prerogative. Parents have to be involved in that situation, right? Like they need to be included in the conversation and know if their kids are part of that,
Yeah, I
right?
mean,
So they're in control.
Because-
Now, athletically, we do have situations where there are, clergy that are maybe on the sideline of a team. Once again, it is voluntary. I would point out, just because you all know him well, is Scott Moore kind of served as a volunteer with the Conroe High School football team for many years. So we've had volunteers in a variety of different ways.
So
that's not new.
What does that entail? I mean, if you bring them into the classroom, faith and religion to the classroom, what does that entail? What are they teaching? What are they praying about? What's the?
We don't allow those things. We don't allow that to happen. So
Okay.
we don't allow it to come into the classroom. We don't allow any. One of the things that we're explicit about, for example, if a youth leader wants to come and have lunch at our schools with kids, is that they have a list of kids that they can work with, and they understand that if they go beyond that, if they're out there trying to recruit in more kids or have conversations with kids that they don't have parental permission to be a part of, then they would lose the privilege. So you can, and I know in Ms. Gladys's world, every word matters so much, and I understand that and respect it. I would never call those people. I would not give them a label of chaplain. You could argue, looking at it, what is their role? But we have those volunteers in schools.
Yeah.
Always have. This is the legislature's
comfortable?
forcing this vote. It's not something that we.
I understand. I just want to entertain this question. Are we comfortable if those same folks, different name, don't call them chaplains, you might want to call them prophets, or you might want to call them reverends, or pastors, ministers, clergy, I don't know, whatever you want to call a shaman, whatever you want to call them. If their background or their religious faith is of the Muslim faith or of the Hindu faith, are we as comfortable expressing that? Because if we are, we should be uncomfortable with what we're doing, if that's the case.
I think the misunderstanding is that a chaplain is not allowed by law. They cannot profess any particular religion. A pastor, a shaman, a priest, or whatever, they're going to express what God is in their faith. But by speaking, as far as chaplains, they're regulated to only represent God or spirit in a secular environment without relation to any specific religion. So let's say you have someone who is Jewish. They believe God to be.
Excuse me, Mrs. Oldenweller, I apologize for interrupting. The motion on the table right now is
is not to discuss all of the information in regards to chaplains and names and religion. The motion on the table right now is to push back or
That's
to
right.
remove. And
So here's the deal, is that I was discussing and answering what Trustee Williams just asked about, are we as comfortable? And if we're going to have a statement like that, we need to be clear as to what the definition is of a chaplain. And we have chaplains in every single branch of our government, one-to-one with groups, with troops. We have chaplains with police department, with fire department, in hospitals, every part of the military. We have chaplains everywhere. Why are we saying, and
Those are
let me
adults.
finish.
Those are adults.
Those
Hold
are
on.
adults.
Grown people from our kids.
And we are adults, and based on what was stated in the legislation, we get to determine and set what certifications, what things they'll be trained in, and what things will be allowed to be covered. So that is what we can't have a vote without understanding what we're talking about.
So the motion
I have a
on the
question.
table at this time is to remove this at this time and consider it at a later time, correct, Mr. Hubert?
Yes, ma'am, that was the motion.
And that has been seconded.
I have a
second.
question about the motion.
Yes.
So as I understand, we have to record our vote on whether we adopt this policy or not by March 1st.
Correct.
So
What's going to change?
We will not
why
be allowed
push
to have
it
chaplains
and-
and volunteers.
why defer it? President Hubert, why
Yeah,
kick the can?
Thank you. I appreciate the question. So I just believe that, I do believe we need to have a resolution. And I know that we will. I do believe we have a resolution. We will need to have a resolution for this, and I support that. I was talking with Ms. Gladys earlier. My personal opinion and why I wanted it to be removed is because I don't think that the resolution, even if the amendment had gone through, I don't believe the resolution really addressed what the bill is. And I just want to do this one time. I don't want us to have to come back and do it again, because it says, permit school districts to accept as a volunteer a chaplain to provide support service and programs for students as assigned by the board. I don't know what those assignments would be from the board. So I'd like for us to discuss that, as Ms. Gladys has done in the past, where she has sent us things throughout the month to consider what the board would do. And this resolution, not the resolution, going back to the bill is not necessarily about having chaplains with what we are discussing on at those things. This is saying the district may employ or volunteer chaplains instead of school counselors to perform the duties required of a school counselor under this. And I'm just saying.
No, that's not what the legislation
Excuse me,
is.
I'm talking. And I want us to make sure that the resolution addresses the bill. So that's my only thought is I do believe we need to do this. I just believe that we need to have a better resolution that addresses all of those issues. And that's my opinion of why I would want it to be removed.
I have a question for Ms. Gladys. Is it stated in there that is to replace or take from counselors?
They can serve in the role of counselors.
They can serve in the role of a counselor,
But it's
not to replace a counselor.
But my question is, I don't
And then
know.
Two people going to do that role?
Okay, also, Miss, I don't know which one, Rice or Garcia, I'm not sure which one to ask, but is there a separate code or line item for funding in the budget for counselors and chaplains?
To my knowledge, there is no code in there for chaplains, but there is for counselors.
It's 23. It's code 23. It's line item 23 in funding
Yeah.
for the government, for our Texas. They
Function
just created it. Function code, sorry.
Wow.
Function code. And they did just create it with this. So it is not to, there's separate funding, there's separate buckets. We're not taking money
Well,
from one.
counselors have always been
Yeah.
split out in separate funding.
So I just.
But it is, I mean, the bill has the funding mechanism for chaplains is school safety. So in lieu of doing
Correct.
other school safety projects, now you're funding chaplains.
No.
That is how
That's
the bill is
correct.
written.
But we've already said no
It's a neither
higher,
or, I
so
agree
we're
with you.
only on volunteer.
volunteers now.
We're only
Yeah,
on
ma'am.
volunteers.
I think funding free.
Excuse me,
paying
now you're
for 'em
talking over me.
is all irrelevant. It's not,
You're
it's about
talking over me,
imposing-
Trustee Williams.
No, it's not.
Imposing on parents. 2 seconds ago.
Trustee
2 seconds
Williams,
ago.
you're talking over
We just
me
said we
now,
want
and
parents
you
to
are
have
not
say-so
calling them out.
in
Yes,
sexuality.
just calm down.
And now we don't want to have parents to have say-so when y'all are bringing chaplains and other religious figures to pray and do whatnot to the kids. I don't want any religious figures dealing with my kids. I won't say so.
Mr. Williams, again, the motion on the table is to remove this from the agenda at this time and consider at a later date. We have a second. At this time, it's time to end discussion and take a vote. For all those in favor of moving this, as the motion has stated, please raise your right hand.
You seconded it.
All
What?
All
You
opposed?
seconded the motion.
I oppose it.
Stacy did. Yes. The motion
Oh, I thought you
fails.
seconded it.
All right, now,
I motion that we take a vote, and a motion on this is relative to yeas or nays, and we have a recorded vote on how the district wants to approach this item. Again, I just think it's a dangerous path we're embarking on. When we're trying to compare kids going off to the military to first, second, and third graders, I think that's a dangerous precedent. I think
I
it's
second the
dangerous
motion.
anytime that we are allowing folks that we're comfortable with, from our spiritual background standpoint, to come in a situation where it should be
Did you make your
clearly
your motion?
separation of church and state. I think that's dangerous.
Mr. Williams, please state your motion. Are you motioning it as listed through Ms. Galanis, the initial resolution? Is that what your motion
I
was?
think we vote on the resolution.
Vote on the resolution as stated originally in our board book. That is what you were motioning?
Yes.
And Ms. Odenweller, that's what you were seconding?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Is there any more discussion on the
Question.
original,
Yeah.
resolution? Ms. Chase?
Just a legal question. So as a resolution is stated correctly, you believe this satisfies our legal requirement under SB 763 or 736?
763.
Yeah, 763.
I do, and I appreciate Trustee Nelson's concern, but by leaving employee out, it implies that we did not improve to
Okay.
hire them as employees.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Nelson?
Question, just to dig a little deeper in the recent Supreme Court case with Kennedy, that, do you want to describe what it was, or how that affects Trustee
It's not
Williams'
going to
comment?
affect Mr. Williams' comment.
That employees can pray privately?
No, that we're on volunteer, because he said there's a separation of church and state and all of those things. I'll just.
I'm just saying based on decency.
Based
And
on-
I'm saying from my standpoint, since you wanted to address my standpoint, all I'm saying is, 2 seconds ago, we said we want parents to have say-so and buy-in when we're reading a sexual book. Now we're saying we don't want to have parents buy in. We want to impose on parents, whatever religious background or faith they have, to have folks in the schools district, Catholic, Muslim, Islam, Hindu, Protestant, whatever you want to be, Mormon, now whatever you want to call yourself, and you go get the certificate, now you're a chaplain, whatever you want to call it. You
Yeah.
call yourself chaplain or whatever, but you still are cloaked under some religious faith, right? And when you do that, it poses a very dangerous precedent, because parents like myself, I take my kids to the denomination and the religious beliefs that I deem appropriate for my kids on Sunday. I don't need you bringing somebody in the school system to do that. And when we're talking about military,
It's voluntary.
adults, come on, if it's voluntary, they can come now.
It's
So what are we doing to
voluntary,
change?
first of all. Second of all, in June of '22, the Supreme Court ruled in favor that all school districts our employees are protected in the First Amendment right to pray at school and/or district property, thus allowing prayer in schools.
Look, we can read as much legislature, and we can be as well-breast
As long
about
as it's voluntary.
all things, legislative updates. When it comes to common decency and respecting people's religious beliefs, it's very simple. You don't have to be an academia or some legal guru
very
to
simple. It's
understand
voluntary.
respecting people's religious beliefs.
Okay,
I 100% agree with what you're saying, that one moment ago we were asking for
were.
parent input, but I'm trying to find out where we didn't say parents would have the right for their children to talk with anyone in this. or to engage. I mean, Dr. Knoll just said it was strictly volunteer.
We can continue to play footsie with this.
No, you're the
but
one
when
that
it's
is
all
sitting
said
here
and done, no
stating
one in this
that
room
you're
and the public in
implying
general
that parents will not have a
have
say.
extreme
You are
issues
saying that
if
parents
these
won't have
very
a say, and no
chaplains
one
or
said
any
that.
religious person came in
Trustee
here of a
Odenweller and
different
Trustee
religious
Williams.
faith.
I think
Just
we
like
have,
we pray
I think we
before
have
these
come
board
to a
meetings.
conclusion.
If I was up here praying before these board meetings in a different faith, a different tongue.
Okay,
you
I
all would have
stopped talking,
extreme
and I
problems.
only was talking over
Right.
him because he
Yeah,
keeps
okay.
stating stuff that is not true.
Mr. Williams and Ms. Odenweller, I believe we understand your points of view. Ms. Chase or Ms. Duncan, did you have anything to add to the conversation at this point?
I think we heard in public comment, and I've heard from many parents and families on this topic, and I feel similar in that the idea that unlicensed, uncertified chaplains in schools
They're licensed and
counseling
certified.
my children on mental health is absolutely terrifying for me. Absolutely terrifying.
They are licensed
Right.
and certified by the same entity that licensed and certifies
If they want to be a
military
counselor and they feel that calling,
get
then
that
I
job.
would
They're not a
suggest they
counselor.
go, I suggest they go and fulfill all the requirements that we require for our professional
But they're not
and
counselors.
licensed counselors.
And if it saves one life, it's worth it.
Where's your data or your evidence that says it
Yeah.
improves any kind of student outcomes?
Okay.
That it improves any school safety? Do you have the evidence,
Yes,
data?
there's a lot of evidence that supports
Okay,
that.
that is not part of the motion now.
When we
Ms.
get-
Ms.
Duncan
Duncan
has
has,
a-
Department of
Ms.
Defense makes it a
Duncan,
part of their budget.
Ms.
to
Duncan
employ
has a
them.
comment. Everybody has spoken. Ms. Duncan has a comment, and then we will
Just one
move to end
comment.
discussion.
I think it's important to note that if we don't allow this, then we're going to have a problem. We're creating another problem because we already currently have volunteer.
Yeah. So here's what I'll
People
say.
coming
to
into
this.
the school
I'm
praying.
gonna comment on this
They're not
regardless of what the
reverends, they're
protocol
chaplains.
is. When you get an LGBT chaplain show up for the school, y'all gonna be up here in outrage. You're gonna be up here in outrage. Everybody's gonna have a problem, right?
People
But yet and
would
still,
have
they
the
went and got the
choice.
same certification.
It's
And then
voluntary.
y'all gonna say we're indoctrinating kids, we're sexualizing them and all this other nonsense that I hear, this preposterous foolishness that these extreme groups come up here and spew. That's what we're gonna do.
It's voluntary.
Y'all did
Final
the same
comment?
foolishness with books, and you're doing the same foolishness now when it comes to imposing on people's
Why are you saying
religious
y'all?
beliefs.
This is a state mandated legislation.
If the shoe fits, take it off.
Y'all.
And there we
Yeah.
go with another one of those demeaning comments by another man on this board.
Okay,
Hey,
all
if
right.
you got a man problem,
All
that's
right.
on you.
No, you have female problems.
Mr. Williams and Ms. Odenweller, Mr. Chairman
Hubert.
Hubert
Okay,
has
so
one more
here's,
comment.
this is just my hesitation about this resolution is I'm just unclear about the assignment by the board. That's my issue. I'm reading this, to me, this resolution is not as clear as I would like for it to be. Because, and it's quite conceivable I'm reading from the wrong SB 763. I didn't print off the one that you sent us. I read it, and I don't think it's
Yeah, that wasn't
possibly not
updated
the
one.
same one that I have. But I just don't know, as it's, let me put it out this way. The way this is stated, the way this resolution is stated is we already have chaplains that can be volunteers in our schools as it is.
Correct.
I see this as just a continuation of that. So the whole idea of the Bill 763 of adding chaplains to do counselor type of work is not included in this resolution. That's what we're saying, that we're just making a resolution that chaplains can continue to do what they have been doing, but they are not going to be taking over the roles that this SB 763 is asking us to vote on. Am I understanding that correctly?
But are the volunteers that we were discussing as chaplains really volunteering in the chaplain
No, that's my
capacity?
point. No.
So
Well,
I don't think it
Very
is a continuation
They
of what we're
absolutely are.
doing.
They're coming in as invited guests. They're not coming in
They're
as
saying the team
hired
chaplain is
chaplains.
coming to pray with the team during football class, which is during the school day.
I don't have any issues with that.
A very close friend of you guys,
guys don't
Reverend
have issues
Hammond,
with
is
that?
coming in. He's been coming for the last 30 years.
We're gonna have issues if it gets out that person that we're inviting is now of a different religious faith. Trust me, parents gonna have a problem with that. We can sugarcoat it and act like it's not the case all we can, but it is what it is. That's the reality of it.
Mr. Williams, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
A sincere question is...
And to that comment, I don't think it's a man problem here. I think it's a truth problem that people are having issues with.
Okay. My question is, are you
Is
are
he
you
trying to
okay?
say that I am not being truthful?
no.
Because that's certainly what he just implied.
No, I don't believe that's,
Yes.
Miss Williams.
Go right ahead, Mr. Hubert.
My question is, are you suggesting that the way we're currently doing it should end?
I'm suggesting.
I'm asking that.
This is a self-conviction thing. The way you're doing it, if you're okay doing it the way you're doing it,
Right.
with people of different faith, with LGBTQ folks that are from that community, who are professed chaplains or pastors and ministers in their own regard, if they show up and I get outrage from parents and the community at large, all right, then you should probably stop it on your side, on the side that we're currently doing. And if you're going to invite chaplains in here, make sure you understand that someone who's practiced under the doctrine of various other faiths that we don't necessarily feel comfortable with as a community or as a board, if they come into the school district, we got to be ready to receive them with open arms. Just like we have these prayers before school, before these invocations, and I've mentioned this multiple times. If I were to bring someone here and I prayed in something other than the Christian faith, we'd have issues with it. So we should reconsider.
Okay.
So
At
to
this
your
moment-
point, that is, I
That's
understand.
Y'all taking it a step
No,
further.
I understand what you're saying, and that's why I'm having a problem with this resolution. It's not that I'm against God, I'm against prayer. I'm for all of those things. Of course I am. My issue is,
This has
I
nothing
just
to do
don't.
with God.
I know that, but my question is, I think that we're all interpreting this resolution a little bit different. I just want us to be a little bit more clear in the resolution, because what if the programs for students as assigned by the board, is the board going to assign and say, hey, look, if the chaplains come in and continue to honor our code of conduct, our volunteer program that we currently have, is that what we're saying? Because if that's what we're saying, then
I don't know.
there's a great, I mean, the resolution's
saying
fine.
we're-
It's not making any changes. And because of that, I don't think that it's addressing the bill.
That
I'm
would
asking.
require a policy to
Thank you.
accompany
Yes.
this resolution.
Again,
I don't know.
as long as y'all are touting Christianity.
No,
Hold on, Miss,
I think, President Hubert, like, I hear what you're saying, but, I mean, I would interpret this resolution as really a vote of whether we are agreeing to embrace chaplains and to perform counseling duties. And you say, well, they're coming in and doing other things. Well, and they're just like any other volunteer, but we don't have any resolution for like an airline pilot that wants to come in and volunteer.
My
Like,
point.
So I think it would be, I don't think it would be the right approach to look at that with that interpretation.
Okay.
And if it really is, we do have these different interpretations, then maybe I would also agree with you that we need to be very specific about what we're saying here.
So we want to see the policy before you sign it, is what you're suggesting?
No,
Right now.
no, I'm saying the
I'm
resolution.
sorry, I was asking trustee.
Yes, ma'am. I would like to know exactly what programs we as a board would assign to the chaplains before I sign a resolution that says I'm for chaplains being as volunteers. It's just not clear enough to me. So for me, that's why I would be voting against, not because I'm against, all the things we're talking about. I'm saying this is not specific enough for me.
All right. Discussion is over. At this time, we have a motion and a second for the resolution of the Conroe Independent School District Board of Trustees to accept volunteer chaplains. If you are in favor, please raise your right hand.
If I may have a point of order, I believe that the motion has to be to accept
The
the resolution as read,
is.
and then we will come back and have to do our individual votings on, because we have
And
to,
we have
we
to-
have to do an individual accounting of this vote, according to.
So we're
according to-
doing A and B?
No.
You have to, I believe the motion is to accept the resolution, and we're not going to change it. And then, according to the law, it says that each charter school shall take a record vote. So we have to individually say we are for or against this resolution.
So you just take a record vote, Ms. Gladys? All right, at this time, we will take the record vote. Ms. Chase?
Well,
No.
I'm so
To
sorry.
adopt the policy?
We are.
The motion that was made
motion?
was not, the motion
To
was,
accept the
was made to
resolution.
either accept
Yes.
or deny the resolution. There was nothing to do with an amendment to the resolution. So this is a yes or no
To the
for the resolution as written.
As written
Yes,
originally
that's
in
the
our
vote.
board book?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Now we
And
can
now you
take
take
the
a record vote. Each
record
person
vote.
can say yes.
Ms. Chase?
Against, me.
Ms. Dungan?
Yay. Yay.
Yes. Mr. Hubert?
Nay.
Ms. Nelson?
Aye.
Where's she on here? Well, we got it. Mr. Williams?
My choice ain't on there, but I'm putting absolutely no.
Okay. Ms. Odenweller?
Yes.
Right, and myself is a nay.
So
So the motion fails.
the resolution.
The resolution fails, correct? Yes, all right, perfect. At this time, I would like to transition the gavel back to Chairman Hubert.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have executive
No,
session
sir.
today? All right. So the next item is to take requests from trustees for future board agenda items. All right. Yes, ma'am?
On the shack deal, do we have that now? I'm sorry, it's been a little while. Where did we leave the shack
So we-
opt-in?
Yeah, so, your vote was that we would put it in policy, so
Perfect,
Ms.
thank you.
Gladys will draft a policy, we'll bring it back next month for a reading, and then the following month.
That
for-
was what I was going to ask for.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
but since it's already in place, no problem, sir.
Yeah, it'll be coming.
All right. Nothing else? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? All right, we are out.